Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, May 12, 2026. This meeting is being video and audio recorded for future cable broadcast. May I ask that everyone silence all cell phones for the duration of the meeting? And may I have a motion to open the school committee meeting?
So motion.
Second.
We'll do a roll call.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Ms. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuinn?
Yes.
Mr. Halcroft?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, the first item is the consent agenda. Everything listed in the consent agenda was distributed in advance of the meeting. Does anyone have any requests for something to be removed from the consent agenda and discussed or voted on separately? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve and accept the items listed in the consent agenda, including the minutes for the April 14th, 2026 and April 29th, 2026 meetings?
So motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unopposed. So next up, we will have delegation. So we have one resident here who signed up for delegation. So the Acushnet School Committee values hearing from the community on issues within its responsibility. Public comment is a time to share opinions, not a discussion, debate, or dialogue, and the committee will not respond to questions during this period. To keep the meetings orderly, please follow these rules. So we ask that you come to the microphone, identify yourself and your address. We'll give all speakers up to 3 minutes to speak. And obviously the topic needs to be something that is on the agenda. I can see it looks like a budget conversation, so we welcome that. So I would ask Tim Mason to come up.
Good evening. I'm Tim Mason, 649 Middle Road. Good evening, members of the school committee. My name is Tim Mason. My daughter is a 5th grader here at Ford Middle School. She is an amazing student who participates in band, chorus, art club, and other after-school activities, and every day she comes home excited to talk about her experiences in classes like health, library, phys ed, and music. For those who don't know me, I am also a music educator who has taught in the New Bedford Public School District for the last 16 years. My family chose to put down roots in Acushnet because of the district's strong academic standards, small class sizes, and the variety of educational opportunities available to students. That's why the proposed cuts under a constraints-driven budget are so concerning to me. When we moved here, one of the district's strengths was its low student-to-teacher ratio. Class sizes average around 15 to 20 students in 2019. As a music educator from an urban school district whose classes have frequently been 27 to 30 students or more, I can tell you with certainty class size matters. On paper, the difference between 20 or 25 or 30 students may not seem dramatic, but in a working classroom, it is enormous. Larger class sizes mean less individualized attention, increased teacher workload, reduced access to support services, and more students falling through the cracks academically, socially, and emotionally. It means that students may have to compete for attention and support they need from teachers who are already stretched to their limits. Middle school students live for their specialty classes. Those experiences are not extras. They are an important part of a well-rounded student, and they're often the reasons students feel connected to school in the first place. As a music educator, arts advocacy is always front of mind for me. I understand that music and art positions are not currently proposed for elimination. However, under the constraints-driven budget, we're looking at scheduling middle school students for 3 specialties or fewer, and that staffing cut will severely limit the way our programs run by reducing the scheduling flexibility needed to provide differentiated instruction and meaningful opportunities for our students. Sorry, just out of breath. Research consistently shows that quality music education improves academic achievement, strengthens social development, increases student engagement, and helps prepare young people for the modern workforce. Students involved in music programs often demonstrate stronger memory function, higher standardized test score performance, and increased college readiness. On average, students in band and chorus outperform their peers on state standardized testing, and looking forward through high school, The students who participate in music score higher on SATs, earn scholarships, and have high college acceptance rates. If these cuts move forward, including cuts to library, health, and other classroom staffing, the ripple effects will impact every area of a student's education, including the arts. Our flourishing band and chorus program will suffer immensely, and so consequently will our students. Students may enter high school less prepared academically, artistically, and socially than their peers in surrounding communities. Our students deserve better than that. They deserve a high-quality academic instruction, reasonable class sizes, strong specialty programs, and access to various levels of the arts and timely academic and social-emotional support. That's why we must come together to find a solution to prioritize the needs of our children first. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And we will have more discussion around the budget here shortly. At this time, reorganization of the school committee, I would take any nominations from any of the committee members relative to the chairperson.
Can I make a motion to appoint Lauren again as chair? Second.
Okay, may I have a motion to appoint Mr. Hood as the school committee chairperson?
So motion.
Okay, I'll second it now.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Hood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero,
Yes.
Mr. Howcroft,
Yes.
Mrs. McGlynn,
Yes.
Mr. Ellis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time I would make a motion or ask for a motion to appoint Mrs. Cordero as the vice chair.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Do a roll call.
Mr. Hood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero,
Sure.
Mr. Howcroft,
Yes.
Mrs. McGlynn,
Yes.
Mr. Ellis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I would propose to the committee is for the time being that we keep subcommittees as is, and part of the reason I say that is I think as it relates to things like negotiations, those are done, contracts are done. We obviously have a little bit of negotiation happening with Fairhaven relative to whether there'll be a successor agreement, but I would say the majority of those, there aren't any negotiations coming, so, and I think my proposal would be over the summer. I think we're going to have a workshop around some goals that we want to accomplish as a committee and those kinds of things. And I think one of the things we should talk about is interests that people have in various other subcommittees. And so we can start to talk about how we can think about getting people experience in other places as well. So that would be my proposal for the time being, and we have some more discussion around that. And we don't need to take a vote on that, I don't think, but we certainly could. But. So yeah, so that's my thought. Okay, so, and I can read that or. So for the record, budget subcommittee is myself and Mr. Howcroft. Negotiations is myself and Mrs. Cordero, but again, there's not really anything that should be happening there. Policy subcommittee, Mr. Ellis and Mrs. McGlynn. The Old Colony Appointment Committee is myself, Mr. Howcroft, Mrs. Cordero. That really is when we have a school committee member to appoint on the Old Colony staff, which comes up from time to time. SMEC representative is Mrs. Glynn. The MASC Joint Conference Delegate is myself, but that could be anybody really. I don't think so that one, when it comes up, I think we had multiple people go last year. So Superintendent Evaluation Committee is myself and Mrs. Cordero, and then not an official committee, but I think Jesse, you have been participating in some of the school safety.
Yeah, the wellness and
committee.
safety
So
committee,
again, that's not a formal committee here, but
Yeah.
I know you want to. That's something that you're passionate about, and you should continue to do that as well. So, and again, I think a good conversation in the summer will be understanding maybe some other interests that people have. So, okay. That being said, so. Dr. Bailey, I will turn it over to you for old business, which I don't know that there's any, but
Yeah.
then we can talk about new business.
Yeah, I'll go right into your business. The first thing we have is we always like to start off with the spotlight on education and highlighting our students.
Excuse me, a point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate that we move D under new business up for discussion? It's on the budget.
Yep.
And I think, I think that, everyone wants probably to hear details on that. And if we go further down,
So do we have anybody here as part of this delegation that is looking to leave? after they present on this, or?
I'm not sure if they're looking to leave after they present, but we do have people presenting from our teaching staff, from the instructional leadership team.
And how about, I propose, we're gonna move up the budget, John, at least one item, but how about we knock off these first two so
Okay,
that people
all right.
can, and then we will move the budget discussion up.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call up Angie Jerry to the podium. Our school instructional leadership team has been doing a lot of work around professional development, and we've adopted or are in the process of implementing the 2024 model rubric for educator evaluation throughout the district. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Jerry.
And I'd like to call any members of the SILT up, Mrs. Sylvia, Mrs. Chesney, Ms. Bassetto. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, Dr. Bailey. Tonight we're going to present on the work that the school instructional leadership team has been doing, and all of the district really, around the adoption of the Department of Education's 2024 model rubric for educator evaluation implementation. So we just wanted to share why the Acushnet Public Schools is adopting the updated DESE model rubric, the highlights on this year's work, and outline what our next steps are going to be for implementation. This picture here is the recent professional development day that we had, where all of the teachers, the teaching staff was working on, and our service providers were looking at all of the new indicators, kind of trying to identify some high leverage indicators that we can work with. So what is the 2024 DESE model rubric? It is a required evaluation tool for all educators, so that is the rubric that we utilize in our educator evaluations. All teachers and service providers are evaluated based on these rubrics. And so it defines the standards for effective practice, and it basically kind of like helps us have common language and clear expectations around performance, and allows us to give good growth-producing feedback. So why did DESE update the rubric? DESE did a lot of work around their strategic planning and their mission, vision, core values, and so what they wanted to do was update a rubric that was a little bit more aligned to the work that they're currently doing, and they also wanted to add in more up-to-date evidence-based instructional practices. And they did have a process, a multi-year process, and they took a lot of input from educators, students, and families in the creation of the updated rubric. And a big focus of the new rubric is inclusive practices, and just looking at not only the academic but the social emotional needs of students too, and making sure that all students belong and feel valued in the school system. So key improvements to the rubric is that there is clearer language for consistent understanding, and again, strongly aligned to SEL and culturally responsive practices. We want to make sure we're reaching all students. I don't want to do too much talking here. Is it, okay. So why are we at Acushnet Public Schools making the choice to move over to the updated rubric? It was a joint discussion between the Teachers Association and the administration. We looked at the rubrics, we kind of did some comparisons, and we had decided to adopt. We felt like it was a lot of the changes were in alignment with our district strategy, and we appreciated the strong focus on supporting all students, and there was the option to, we could have adapted that, we could have created our own, we could have adapted the DESE rubric. We would then have to submit that to DESE for approval, but in looking at the updated model rubric, we felt as though it was comprehensive and supported the work that we want to be doing here. So that was the decision that we had made last year. And why does it matter for students? The rubric is does support high-quality instruction. It supports consistent expectations, improved feedback for professional growth, and we hopefully better outcomes for all students. So our multi-year rollout plan, last year we did again that meeting discussing decision-making, planning for this year. This year we've done a lot of training around the rubric. The SILT has delivered the vast majority of the training. And then next year we will begin with implementation of the rubric, and we will continue to have training. This was actually a first grade, actually it was pre-K to 2. And so does somebody from SILT want to kind of explain how we broke up our groups?
I can.
Okay.
Sure. A little long-winded, but, so I was one of the people that presented the PD. And I'm just gonna read some of the notes that I wrote. So what was the objective of it? And what did we kind of accomplish? And how does it connect to what we're using for curriculum in Acushnet right now? So as part of our leadership work, my colleagues and I broke into, as best we could, groups and engaged in a detailed review of the 2018 educator rubric alongside the updated 2024 rubric. We examined the standards side by side to better understand both the expectations and the opportunities this updated rubric creates for educators and students. One of the clearest standouts was the increased clarity and specifics in the 2024 rubric. The updated language gives educators a more precise understanding of what effective practice looks like in action, rather than focusing primarily on compliance or isolated instructional moments. We also saw a stronger emphasis on collaboration and reflective practice, which is what we pretty much accomplished working as a team. The 2024 rubric makes it clear that effective teaching is not done in isolation. It values shared problem solving, data-informed instruction, and ongoing professional reflection. Another important shift is a stronger focus on the whole child. The updated rubric evaluates culturally responsive teaching, inclusive practices, relationship building, and safe learning environments where all students can thrive. These priorities reflect the evolving needs of our students and communities. The collaborative review process itself was one of the most valuable parts of this work. Unpacking each standard together allowed for meaningful dialogue about consistency across schools and what strong teaching and leadership look like today. We also noticed strong alignment between the updated rubric and our current curricular direction and pilot programs. For example, L-Education emphasizes student choice, family and community engagement, culturally sustaining practices, and entry points for multilingual learners. That alignment reinforces that the rubric is not just an evaluation tool, but a guide that supports and reinforces the instructional priorities of the district. Another key takeaway was a shift toward growth-oriented feedback. The updated rubric provides a stronger shared language for coaching conversations, which supports more meaningful feedback and more targeted professional learning, ultimately leading to stronger outcomes for students. In the end, the work mattered because rubrics shape practice. When expectations are clear, aligned, and student-centered, educators are better equipped to reflect, grow, and meet the needs of learners. The transition from the 2018 rubric to the 2024 rubric represents a meaningful step toward more responsive, collaborative, and student-focused teaching and leadership. So pretty much working as a group under different contents or umbrellas, we were able to kind of come together and sort of figure this out together so that it will be much more easily, much smoothly implemented next year. We'll all be on the same page.
Thank you, Tammy. That was Tammy Jarrett, our academic coach at the Ford Middle School. So this year's work, we did split into groups, pre-K to 2, 3 and 4 with AES specialty teachers, 5 through 8 humanities, 5 through 8 STEM, and then our specialized instructional support personnel. And each one of those groups was led by two SILT facilitators. And we really, they unpacked each and every standard in standards 1 through 4 of the rubric over a multi-day training throughout the school year. And then we're just trying to build focus and alignment We utilized educator input as part of this process. So after they had unpacked all of the standards, they then, it was on the February 27th Professional Development Day, a couple of weeks back. We then tried to identify, looking at our district's priorities, mission and vision, core values. We tried to consider what are some of the high leverage standards that we can really heavily focus on in the next year, so that we're all kind of moving in the same direction, rowing in the same direction. So we just have all kinds of sticky notes on there where educators try to identify high leverage standards and then and indicators, and then also consider whether the high leverage indicators are something that they view as a current strength in the district or an area for growth. And our SILT will then take that information, kind of try to break it down a little bit, and then from there, what we've always done and many school districts do is they'll identify priority indicators. So not that we ignore all the other ones, but that we select a good, I don't know, I think currently we have something like 11 of the indicators to really have a heavy focus on. So next year we'll have the full implementation. It'll be utilized in all 5 components of the educator evaluation cycle. And then we'll just continue to do professional development with administrators who will be, and administrators and educators on the rubric. So this was a thoughtful and collaborative decision to adopt this rubric. We had a year-long focused training on the new rubric. The staff really did an awesome job. There is a lot to think about with this rubric. There was a lot to unpack, and there are changes. And everybody was so thoughtful about trying to really understand what the rubric is, what its I guess intent and meaning is, and what does that look like here in our school district, and just really conscientious conversations about how we can move forward. And so we really think we're in a good position to implement next year. And these are just the strategic alignment, this presentation and how it's aligned to our strategic plan. Did anybody want to add anything else? Thank you. Thank you to all of our SILT members for helping to facilitate the professional development this year.
And I also want to thank the ATA president. When I first approached her on this, she got representation from the teachers in both schools, and it was a very collaborative endeavor, and I appreciate all of the work that you've all done. And I know some people are not here tonight, but it's been a lot of hours that you've put into this, so thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, so with the transition from the 2018 metrics, grading, I should say rubric, to the new updated 2024 one, what were some of the most significant changes between the two in your mind?
Most of the significant changes would have been all students,
Mm-hmm.
all students, all students. Culturally sustaining practices. Things that probably our older texts and our older curriculums did not already include. You know, the entry points for the MLL students, the multi-language students. So a lot of the things that we're piloting now, student ownership, student engagement, student-led conferences, students being the facilitator of their learning in the classroom.
Great.
Any questions?
One other question, and I don't know if you've thought about this, but just once we go to full implementation, how will you, or have you thought about how you'll continue to build rigor around those things like goal setting and self-assessment, so that, obviously we're continuing to kind of bump the baseline up and build rigor around some of those processes?
No, we talk about that frequently, and we talk about what the teacher goals will be, the student learning goals, the professional practice goals, and it will be that both students and teachers are continuous learners in the process, and that we are keep chasing that moving target and what is out there that other students in Massachusetts are doing and learning from and getting, and that we're going to do that for Acushnet as well.
Excuse me. I know that the district's been doing a great job at adopting, new curriculums, kind of really adopting higher quality levels of curriculum across a bunch of different subject matter areas. Do you see any potential, I hesitate to say deficiencies, but any curriculums that we currently utilize that may need to be replaced or updated to be more in line with these new standards?
The last one we're looking at is math, but we're already
To be
piloting.
determined, of course.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we have teachers K through 8 looking at piloting math programs as well.
And I think that's an ongoing conversation, because that was something that consistently kind of came up in the groups and also in SIL. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything to that, but I think we did actually see that some of our newer curriculum programs are checking all of those boxes, whereas we thought some of the older ones that we have to really take the time to consider, is it really meeting our needs? And so yes, I think some lend themselves more easily, but again, I think moving forward, anything that we're considering needs to be able to help. We don't want teachers having to do all kinds of supplementing in order to be proficient.
Yeah, and I think the sooner we adopt these new grading rubrics, the better, because it provides guideposts for future curriculum changes and adoption. So, makes sense. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so we have one more short presentation, because I believe we have a teacher here with Mrs. Chesney, Ciara Canastra. If she could come up, we're going to talk about the Playground Communication Board, and Ciara is a preschool special education teacher, and she got a grant for this, so I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I'm going to actually give it right over to Ciara Canastra, because this really was her idea and her project. She started the whole thing, so yes, absolutely. I'm just going to do the whole thing for me, all right? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. So yes, through the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation for Autism, I was able to find us a grant for a free communication board for our playground. I found it back in September, and then I was able to apply, get the grant, and the board was delivered to the school in mid-October, and we were able to hang it on the side of the building next to the little toy on the elementary school playground. I said I wasn't going to interrupt, but she was featured on Fun 107, and that is from one of the quotes from one of the articles there that she was featured on for winning this. So sorry, Ciara. No, you're good. Thank you. So it's
Good highlights, Ciara.
Thank you. So it's about a 3-foot by 5-foot visual communication board, and what it does is it starts conversations for students who might be nonverbal or minimal speaking students. They're able to go up to it and touch the icons to tell someone if they want to play with a swing or a slide, a ball, run around, or if they're all done, or if they need help with something. It even has yes, no's, or what and where, so it asks some, so you can ask some questions if you need to with it. And some of their needs as well. So a lot of the times for non-speaking or minimally speaking students, they can't tell us their wants or needs, so having a communication board out there helps them to be able to tell us if they need something or if something hurts, everything like that. So Little Toy is primarily used by the preschool and kindergarten classrooms, so we have the substantially separate preschool room, substantially separate kindergarten rooms, and they use that playground. It's fenced in, so it's safe for them to play at, and they're the ones who use the board the most. And this is what it looks like. So it has some of your core words on it: the I, you, want, play, climb, swing. If they're hot or cold, something hurt, if they need to go to the bathroom, if they need their water. things that we wouldn't think of as people who can speak, but for the non-speaking students, this is huge for them. And then this is a short video. I think so.
This is so cool.
Can we do it now?
Yes.
You want to swing? All right, let's go. She's so happy. You're so happy.
So that was a student in my preschool classroom. She, before the board, she would just try to grab our hands and bring us over to items on the playground. And we were trying to figure out what she wanted. And after having the board, she saw it. Her face lit up. She immediately went over to it, touched it, and said what she wanted. So she does that usually on a daily basis. She'll bring someone over there. She'll find an adult all around the play, whoever is there, myself, our paras, anyone who's on the playground, to bring us over there to tell us that she wants to swing or the slide. So it's really amazing to see. And then to connect it to our district plan.
I can do that.
Oh, sure. Okay. So like I said, it provides a safe and supportive environment. So it's on a playground that's fenced in for those little preschoolers or kindergartners, and it supports them in something that they might not have felt supported in before. It applies to their social emotional because it gives them that connection to friends. I even see some of our kids from our integrated preschool classroom will go over to the board and try to talk with some of the other friends that might be over there. So it really helps them introduce and make connections to people that they might not have before. And it's on a playground that is community access, so people not just in the school can use it, the community can use it as well. And the next steps with it is to keep growing with it. So staff, students, adults, parents, anyone who's around who can model the use of the communication board can help show other people how it works, and spreading awareness for it, and then training other staff who might not know how to use a communication board with it. And it's really simple. It's just you go to it, you touch it. Sometimes people say what, like she did, she'll say what she's touching, or you can just touch it and still know that that's what she's asking for. So yeah.
I just want to thank you, Sierra.
Anybody have any questions for Sierra? Sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic work, thank you.
Sierra, I wanted to thank you too. So I'm opening a child care center in Wareham and heard that you got this. So I applied for it too.
Oh, good.
And so I'll be hanging one in my playground. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I didn't even know it existed until you did that. So thank you. Thank you.
And I understand that the Doug Flutie organization allows one per town. And so we are trying through CPC funding eventually to get another one for our other playground for students to utilize. So I really appreciate the fact that she took the initiative to do that. I was thrilled to get the email from her, and I appreciate the presentation tonight. So thank you, Sierra and Mrs. Chesney. And then,
Mrs. McGlynn, did you have a question?
I did have a question about it. I absolutely love this. I love that you went through and you had this idea and you followed through and were able to get this grant for this, because I think this is amazing and opening so many doors to so many children. And I love that it's integrating too, that we're having the all kids utilize it rather than it just be just for this classroom. But I also wanted to ask, is it something that we can update too? Like if there's new words that we have to add to it, is there something, like I know like on PEX boards we're able to do that. I don't know if that's something. Sorry, now that you got down, Tracy.
No, that's okay. It's just short, so it's no problem. So for the communication board like this from the Doug Flutie Foundation, it's something that can't be updated, but there's options to look into something that like we can update it ourselves or find other places to find updates for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem, thank you.
thank you, Sierra.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Joe, we're going to
I'm
make the move
gonna
here.
ask to take this out of order now, if we can go to the adoption of the FY 26-27 school operating budget. And I do understand that before we begin, Mr. Hood, you wanted to speak.
Sorry, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump in the middle of it, but I know we actually do have another guest that should have a relatively short presentation for topic 6G, I believe that she just entered. It might be, with respect to her time, maybe appropriate to take it right now. So I'd make a motion to move item 6G up to this point and then take the agenda as prescribed from there on.
Okay, are we all in favor? Okay. Sorry, I can't, I'm hitting the face on the side, so I can't see, so.
You don't have to take it out of order.
Come-
I'm happy to
It's
No, Pam.
really okay.
Come-
The next stuff's going to be kind of long, so go on up here. Yeah, that's really getting right in the face.
That's like, yeah.
So I did meet with Ms. Labonte, the town clerk, regarding town elections, as I know that it's been expressed by this board to look at the possibility of changing or looking at other times when school is not in session to hold an election. And I know we feel very strongly in this board and community about not having school on the days that a lot of people from town are coming, parking, and all of it with safety and security. So I did ask Pam to come and speak about this issue, and I appreciate you being here tonight, so thank you. I didn't realize you were here.
Oh, no, that's okay. I appreciate the invitation, and I appreciate the support that I've received from all of you, as well as the previous boards since I've been town clerk. I understand the concerns of wanting us to move out of the schools for the election days. And I will say that, as I expressed to Paula and Aldo, I have been town clerk for 18 years. In those 18 years, I have tried numerous different buildings throughout town that we just have not been successful with for one reason or another. We've tried the town buildings, we've tried a building that wasn't a town building, the town Grange, using that as our precinct 2. And unfortunately, when the state came down to do an inspection, that was found as not feasible because of the parking lot. It's very uneven, so for individuals that have stability issues, that was deemed not an appropriate place. So we did have to stop holding it there. For many years, we did hold, we had 2 precincts at the Council on Aging. That was not too bad, but over the last, I'm going to say, we changed it in 2019 to the schools. Prior to that, we had numerous automobile accidents due to the entering and exiting of the Council on Aging for the time of voting. This, unfortunately, they only have one way in and one way out. And South Main Street, as you all know, is pretty much our thorough line to Fairhaven. So anyone that travels South Main Street nowadays, it's not just busy in the morning when people are going to work and at nighttime when people are coming home. It is an all-day occurrence. As many of you know, we did have a bicyclist that not too long ago was killed right at that entrance. So that's a very sensitive subject also. And with the number of accidents that we've had, it just is not conducive to us being there. The community center, which it's our library now, but the former community center used to house 2 of our precincts. That also was an issue as well. That was an issue because of the number of accidents. But now that it's the library, it is much smaller. So the room, the community room that we would use is not conducive in size and is not ADA compliant. we may look at a room and say, oh, it looks like there's enough space in there. But once you start setting up the required tables, the polling booths, the handicap booth, it really takes away from the space that you have in a room. And we did do the 2016 presidential election at the library, and quite frankly, it was a disaster. It was just much too small. So we really are limited in where we can go, and that's one of the reasons why we did move it to the schools. I know there are individuals that have been touched by the tragedy that happened in our Ford Middle School. I also was touched by it. I happen to have been very close friends with Mrs. Day's daughter, and I spent many weekends at her house. And my two nephews were in school at the time of the tragedy. So I do feel everyone's pain and angst regarding that. But I really think we do need to come to a consensus that will work for all of us. And the reason we've opted for the elementary school is primarily because being in the gym section, it is sectioned further away from other classes. And the middle school, unfortunately, with the library, the gym and the cafeteria being all one, that was not conducive either. So what we did discuss was moving the date for the April election, taking care of the elections that we know that we can control. And those are the annual town elections and the November state elections and presidential elections. And hopefully, we will be able to have more control over the September state primary. We're just waiting for final word on that. So I am very willing to move the date to the Tuesday after the holiday in April, which would be, that's Patriots' Day, right? Okay.
School vacation.
During school vacation. If that would help. I just don't foresee dealing with the state, dealing with the other locations that we have in town. I don't see any other alternative than trying to shore up some other days that wouldn't affect the school. Okay.
Questions?
I mean, I would just say I appreciate the amount of effort that you and your team have put into, looking at alternatives and seeing which elections we actually do have some control over. To
Yeah.
your point, a lot of them are mandated. And I think, this year, we really ran into a number of stumbling blocks with regards to the weather and then the unusually large number of elections that we have this year. So it kind of, everything came together to make a pretty tough situation. But I think I'd certainly be in favor of moving one of those elections to an existing break. That would be perfect, to my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think to the extent we can have elections not on regular school days, I think that would make all of us happy, I'm sure, just given the reasons that we have concerns. So we appreciate your collaboration.
Yeah. And I would just say it's probably worth, I know obviously you said that there were some issues with holding elections at Ford, but with us, looking at moving 5th grade back over to the elementary school, there would then be fewer students over there. It might be worth just taking a second look and seeing if that would be a good workable solution. Work with the admin team and just come up with the best for both worlds.
Okay.
Yeah, I share your pain and all this, on the locations. Anyway, the couple of things that we should keep in mind in our planning. First of all, the last election. Security has always been a big issue with,
Oh,
as well
absolutely.
with everything.
Yes.
There was a gentleman on the grounds with a sign, no campaigning, He was stopping cars. His people came in and out. And so I had a brief discussion with him. And he appeared to be a rebel without a cause type. Fairly aggressive, determined, maybe should use the term. But and what I noticed, there was no police officers outside the building. There were none on the premises or even patrolling. There were none in front, and it led me to believe, that he wouldn't be a security risk, but it attractive nuisance. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know, in your planning, that you have more of a police presence on the outside and the perimeters, and observing who is not supposed to be on the grounds. We should be open to all voters, and we don't have to act like ICC, which they're going to be doing. But anyway, I'm just bringing that to your attention.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Was that gentleman collecting signatures?
Yes, he was.
Okay, he is allowed to be on the grounds to do that.
Right, but he was within. He was outside. He was within the perimeter, and he was stopping cars, which I don't
He's allowed
think
to do that right outside the exiting door.
he could do that.
He's allowed to, yes. He's not allowed to do that or campaign within that 100-foot, 150-foot buffer if it's an election that he is involved in. He did call me ahead of time and did speak with me to get permission. Now, if he was stopping vehicles to get signatures, that I have an issue with.
Right. It was plain sight.
Okay, and that I will definitely address. And I do, just like with the school, it takes a village to run these elections. And I really do have to rely on other people that if you see something, let me know, or let one of my registrars know, or one of my election staff, so they can get it addressed. That's the only way we can make sure that it gets addressed.
Well,
I do appreciate you speaking with him.
I was just determining what he was up to and also his state of mind.
Yeah, yes, he's running for U.S. Congress, so.
Anyway, the second thing I just want to raise in the planning is that we're always trying to be parent-friendly. And when we have days that are off, called off for a variety of reasons, it does pose a burden on many families as far as children at home, getting babysitters, if it's a special needs child, for example, what accommodations there are made. So there are a lot of things that go in when we don't have school in session, how it affects families. And I don't know how we can work out a plan that will accommodate that, but we need to be, families, a lot of them are struggling right now and will be struggling in the future financially. And they can't afford to take a day off from work, and this is a service that that inadvertently we supply. So I'd like somehow we could avoid that, whether we can work out a system. Like in some towns, the schools are in session at the same time as elections. They're saying they don't stay home. I don't know if that's looking at buildings, whether we should switch buildings around, but that's another angle that we should all be sensitive to. So I just want to toss those two things out.
Thank you. I did meet with Pam and a Board of Selection in Aldo about this. Did you get an answer, Pam, about next year's schedule? Because I know that happen to be, you had to look into the bylaws,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Because we're interested if we can possibly change next April. Since we have the calendar already done, that would be like a change that we would recommend to the committee, so we could have that school day back.
Yes, I actually just received word late this afternoon from Bob Hinckley, Selectman Hinckley, that it will be included with this upcoming warrant. What happens with that is we vote on it at town meeting, and then it goes off to the Attorney General's office for a final approval because it's actually written right into our bylaws. So I would say typically it would take 120 days from the time of town meeting for it to get to the AG's office, be processed, and then they have a 90-day window in order to respond. And they're usually very good about getting back to us within the 90 days. So with town meeting being in June, unfortunately, we would not know until early fall, okay? However,
Do you know, like, sorry to
we-
interrupt, but is it, how likely is it that they, like, why wouldn't they approve that?
well, I was just going to say that when we changed it to the Saturday back in 2019, that was not a problem. And when we did it this last time, they also didn't have a problem with it. So I don't foresee it to be an issue at all. But again, I can only control that election, again, with the vote of the townspeople, and the November election, because those are the actual fixed elections. This Old Colony vote, that we were Patriots Day battling it out on where and what time we could possibly have that. The superintendent suggested having it until 10 o'clock at night, and I said, absolutely not, we cannot do that. 8 o'clock is the latest. But we are going to have that on the Saturday, June 20th. So if the board is, agreeable, we will move forward with getting the April date changed to school vacation. And just so you know, the first time around when we did this, that was the recommendation, was for the week of school vacation. But we did have a selectman that did not want that because he felt that there were too many people on vacation and felt that that would not be fair. But quite honestly, with vote by mail, absentee voting, there's more than ample time to get a vote in.
The elections that would be held on that date are all eligible for vote by mail and absentee.
Yes, I will tell you the ones for June 20th are not eligible for vote by mail. So that is going to be very important. Anyone that's not going to be here for that weekend, get the word out. You can vote absentee or you can vote in person, but those are the only two ways you'll be able to vote.
Why is that a choice?
It's a district. It's a district election, which is different from a state and local. State and the primaries is a requirement. The local is up to us, and districts are just not allowed.
Do we need to take a vote on this, or?
Well, I didn't have it listed as a vote,
Okay.
but would you bring back, if the committee says that they'd like to go forward with this, will you let them know that we definitely want it on the warrant if that's the choice of the committee?
Yes, if you don't mind.
We don't mind doing a vote either. but-
Yeah, just to solidify it for tonight, and that pretty much would say that you're in agreement with us moving forward at town meeting with it.
Okay, so the motion is that we're gonna propose that we move the annual town election.
Yeah.
To the school vacation week.
Correct.
Starting in 2027.
That is correct, yes.
And we're just voting our support of that change.
Right,
Right,
that's
Yeah,
exactly.
we're not the
We're
deciding
not the
authority.
town clerk.
Yeah, no, we'll take care of the verbiage for the warrant article, but just to have your support.
Okay, so I have a second from Ms. McGlynn, so do we, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
I had one question.
Yeah.
having the elections in the, complex, the school complex, is it adding anything to our budget? Is it a cost factor that if we didn't have it, have we ever analyzed
The
that?
cost of the school, you're asking.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't believe it is, but Aldo, I'll let you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they pay for the custodian's time. A lot of it's done while school is open anyways, but any time after that is charged off. But other than that, there was no cost to us.
I wanted to charge it to your budget, but I'm sorry. I can't do it.
That's all right.
Kim, I
The budget
appreciate,
is what it is.
I do appreciate you being here tonight
you.
and explaining to the committee. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
your
much.
time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So now, I know we're gonna move to the budget, the 26-27 school budget, proposed adoption of our budget, but before I begin, I would turn it back over to Mr. Hood, who wanted to speak to the full committee.
Okay, so I want to share this because I want to make sure that the committee has all of the information, because we're going to take a vote tonight on this 26-27 budget. So in anticipation of tonight's meeting last week, Dr. Bailey, business manager, myself, and Ms. Cavarlo, union president, wrote a letter through the town administrator to the Board of Selectmen. We all signed that, basically just letting them know that we would be taking our vote and essentially asking them to reconsider the level funded budget given the impact that it will have. And so prior to this meeting, we did get a response. I won't read it verbatim, but essentially from the town administrator, new town administrator. In regards to next year, he talks about how he'd like to begin the budget process earlier, and hopefully next year no positions will need to be eliminated. So that's great, but we'll worry about next year. Second, the town isn't in a fiscal position to meet our constraint-driven budget request. However, they're working to fund to the best of our ability, and I think we'll get some update maybe on some additional funding that maybe we've had conversations with them about. And so I think they also asked us to look at whether there are any one-time expenses in our budget, and they asked us to eliminate those, and should something pop up over the course of the year that would be a one-time item, the town would consider that. I'll let Aldo speak when we get into the budget, whether our budget contains any significant one-time items that would actually make a material difference to what we're talking about here. So, and then finally, they're going through the budget request currently. They acknowledge that it doesn't seem equitable that Old Colony's proposal has an increase of about $410K in it relative to their assessment, which it sounds like the Board of Selectmen is meeting with Old Colony tomorrow. So I share that only to make sure that the committee understands the most current information and that the public understands the most current information. And so I wanted to make that known prior to this discussion, so
Okay,
I'll turn it back over.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to Aldo, I just want to remind you where we've come from, where we're going. We talked about 4 scenarios: needs-driven, a level service, a constraint-driven budget, and a level funded. The town has asked for a level funded, and we know we cannot do that. That would mean a reduction in 21 staff members.
Dr. Bailey, can I ask a question relative to level funded? If we were at a level funded budget, what would that mean relative to net school spending?
Actually, it would mean we would not meet net school spending, but I know Aldo's going to get into that in more specific. But we would not be meeting net school spending, and we're going to be very close, and I know Aldo will speak about it with a constraint-driven budget as well. We always strive for at least a level service budget, which is getting the same service that we currently have. But we also understand the fiscal constraints of the town, and we've come up with, what we feel is reasonable. We call it our constraint-driven budget. The impact would mean 8 reductions in staff, administrators, and teachers. Also budget reductions in operations, maintenance, professional development, and more. This will have a serious impact on our students for next year. That's what we're asking you reluctantly to vote on tonight. We're going to review all of the constraint-driven budget, but a level funded would really hurt us. And we are asking the town right now for $1 million to support this constraint-driven budget. If we don't get that, it will be serious for our students. They will miss out on opportunities. We will have larger class sizes. We will possibly have no specialist enrichment for our students. School will look very different. That will probably mean an additional 12 positions being cut in addition to the 8 positions. And this isn't a scare tactic, this is real. We're in front of 1,000 students every day. We have to have staff in front of them to teach them and provide them with a quality education. And we've talked about this before, that our job, all of us, is to provide our students with a safe and supportive environment and a quality education. So I'm going to turn this over to Aldo, and he's going to summarize for you the constraint-driven budget that we are asking the committee to vote on tonight, reluctantly.
Good evening. I'm just going to go through some of these slides. I know there's about 35 slides. There's about 10 that I kind of picked out that I think that we'll look at to summarize what we've talked about back on April 14th. And these are our budget scenarios. The needs-driven, which is everything that we possibly could want for all of our students. Level services is maintaining all staff that we have, all programs that we have now, and moving forward the amount of money we need for that. Jumping to the end, the level funded is just that. Receiving the same amount of money this year as next year, and the cuts we need to make, as the superintendent said, is upwards of 21 or 22 staff positions, plus programmatic cuts. So we developed a constraint budget, which is basically $1 million more than we're getting this year. That will allow us to continue moving forward, but again, with less staff than what we have, and some cuts to our operations and maintenance and programs. But in knowing that they're not going to give us the full needs that we require, this is something that we came up with as a compromise. We're not happy about it, but it's what we put forward. So again, just quickly, our budget funding sources we receive in Chapter 70 when they develop it and they give us our foundation budget. There's a certain amount that the state puts up for us, and there's a certain amount they require the town to put in for us. And the ratio is about 55 to 45%. They break it up every year, it changes. Right now, the state is requiring about $9.6 million from the town, and Chapter 70 puts in the other $7.5 million. That's been changing slightly with the House budget and now the Senate budget, but it hasn't really changed a lot. It still has the bulk of the funding coming from the town. We do receive grants. We're going to receive close to what we received last year on our special ed grants. We're receiving a slight reduction in our Title I grants, and the other grants are still open to find out what's going to happen with other granting sources that we receive. Our circuit breaker reimbursement is not a grant. They simply reimburse us a percentage of what we spent the prior year. So we have about $280,000 coming to us that's coming in this year to be used for next year, so we know that dollar amount. That's pretty much fixed. And we have some revolving accounts, and we try not to expend more than we took in. So I put food service up there, but food service runs separate of everything else. But our rental account, we're renting out our facilities, we'll have about 15, maybe 20,000 in that account. And our preschool tuition fund, we have roughly around 50,000 a year in revenues in that account. Again, we'd like to see those accounts grow. We don't use them all up every year, because as they grow, we can then develop new projects for the district. We can expand on preschool. We can expand on kindergarten. So we try not to tap into those unless absolutely needed. Again, our overall budget, as you'll see, most of it is salaries. To the right, the professional salaries is more than 50%. Then you got clerical, para, and salaries on the bottom that add to that. So it's about almost 2/3 of our budget. Contracted services and out-of-district tuition pretty much eat the rest of our budget. Supplies and materials and other expenses is close to nothing. So when the statements about you need to cut back on your supplies and so on, we don't spend a lot of money on supplies. We don't have many other expenses, 1%, 1.5%. Our salaries are in, a bulk of our budget is in salaries. And the reason is because that's our job. We're here to teach children. That's where it's spent. Going from that slide you saw earlier, our needs-driven budget was almost $2 million is what we were looking for. To continue going forward, we went from being one of the lowest performing schools in the state to one of the highest performing schools. We want to continue that. That's our needs-driven budget. Level services, we need about $1.5 million just to keep doing what we're doing right now. And part of that $1.5 million is because we relied on solar energy credits this year to the tune of $250,000 to carry us through this year, which we're now put back because those credits will all be used up. Our salaries went up less than 3% in that overall budget, and as you know, as you're probably experiencing, between gasoline and heating oil, those costs are going through the roof. Again, level funded means no money for an increase in our budget. That's where the 21 staff positions reductions come in, you know, class size, all our extra programming, all our extra help. So the constraint-driven budget is about $1 million. We're still going to lose 8 positions, one in administration and 7 in teaching. And we'll be cutting back on some of our operations and maintenance, and which is never a good place to cut, but we felt that we had to give the town something that they could basically pallet and get our budget moved forward for us and allow us to continue doing business. So again, I keep hammering home that it's $1,001,812. Now, in meeting with the town last week, we met with the town administrators, let them know that we were meeting tonight to discuss our budget. I said we'd like to hopefully have a number if we could. They don't have one yet, but the discussion went that this year we got $16,689,000. Right now, they said we could probably get you to $16,008,000 or $16,009,000. So it's roughly $230,000 more than they're currently giving us. It doesn't meet the $1 million mark. They're still working on the budget, as Mr. Hood said. They're meeting with Old Colony, that $410,000 figure. They want to discuss that. And of course, we're waiting for the compromise committee. The Senate come up with their budget. It didn't reflect on the cherry sheet, but it looks about a $100,000 increase in those numbers, which in turn go to the town, which in turn will go to us. But really, I think the town is looking at what they can do with Old Colony and what they can do within their budget, because they were still looking to make cuts and basically make changes in their overall budget. So we're hoping that they can get closer to this number, but we need to be prepared in the instance that they don't.
I have the same question, so meaning level funded, maybe you're going to get to it relative to net school spending, or even if we get to the 16.8 or 16.9, which I think is approximately $250K more, where are we relative to net school spending?
If they were to bring us to $16,008,000, we'll probably just make net school spending by $30,000. The real problem with that is it's very difficult to spend every penny and not go over.
Mm-hmm.
So that much of a buffer is almost impossible to have, and it's very dangerous because if you do go over, now you got to go to town meeting and get the money, and if they don't give you the money, you're in trouble. If you go to $16,009,000, about $130,000 over, and again, it doesn't take a lot to use that up.
Mm-hmm.
You could have special ed costs that come in that'll increase that. You can have building maintenance costs that come in.
Boilers. Those boilers.
The boilers. So in the letter that Mr. Hood read, they wanted to know if we had any one-time costs that they could look at. We did submit a letter, an article to them asking for $95,000 to do some anticipated maintenance in our boilers so that hopefully next winter we spent over $45,000 this year. By doing this $95,000 worth of work, we're hoping that we don't have any big expenses like that next year. Because if our budget is going to be down to the penny, we won't have that extra money to utilize in there. It would be something where we'd spend and then have to go to town meeting and explain and try and get that money back.
Well, just to be clear, we submitted that for an article, which means it's not in our budget. So that one-time item is not sitting in our budget. That could be removed.
Correct. There's no savings by taking that. So that's our position on that. Again, just to show the 7 FTE reductions, it's about $600,000, administrative another $100,000, and the operation and maintenance reductions, those are cuts to all of our other line items in the budget. We basically came up with almost $1 million. This is with the $1 million they're giving us to get us that full $2 million that we needed. So this would have to be increased if they come back with a final figure for us, and it's not $1 million we're expecting. So the amount that we're going to be requesting of the town is the $17,691,457. That is our constraint budget, a constraint-driven budget. And as you can see, I already took out the credits in there for Title I, for IDEA, for solar credits, for circuit breaker funding, and the $1 million in reductions that we've already made. So that's the amount that I would like to get a motion for tonight, and we reach that point, the request of the town, and then see what comes back to us. And I just wanted to reinforce. I wanted to focus in on the fact that over the past 8 years, we've gone from being one of the lowest in our scoring to one of the highest in the state, the amount of improvement that we've made. Yet at the same time, our per pupil spending, meaning the amount of dollars we spent on each student, has been 7th from the bottom in the state. And we've still been able to achieve that. So now making further cuts is going to really put us in a position where we might not be able to maintain that, which means the Department of Ed will be looking over our shoulder, which means some of our grants that we get might be, reduced in items that we use to really supplement our budget. So that's something that, again, I'd like to hammer home, that the fact that we do it with less money. So if the statements come out that you have plenty of money, you have plenty of positions to work with, we don't. And this proves it. These numbers don't come from us, these come from the Department of Ed. So that there's something that's written in stone.
And can
That's
you
it.
talk about the fixed costs in terms of how much transportation has gone up? Because I want people to understand that we have no control over those costs.
Yes, so we have certain costs, again, that we have no control over. One is transportation. Every 3 years we go to bid, and there's only one bidder, and it's not just Acushnet, it's all over the whole state. The Attorney General's even looking into that, whether there's collusion or what the situation is, but every district pretty much just has one bidder. Our costs for busing went up this year 11.44%. So we have, again, no control over that. That's much higher than the average. The average is usually around 6%. But some companies buy newer buses. Some companies pay their employees more. Many of them are unionized. Many of them are Teamsters. So they have the strength of the Teamsters forcing those costs up.
Can I add some context to that too? Just several years ago, previous committee, I think, looked at the contract for the buses, and there was literally like a certain type of bus that was written in the contract that we needed to consider. The committee at that time kind of said, this seems to be a bit outdated. We expanded the types of buses that could potentially be acceptable with the hope that it would open up for more than one bidder and nothing one bidder. So, I think it's something that try to maximize the amount of people that would be in on a contract to potentially make it more competitive over the years, but unfortunately that just hasn't happened, and I think it's kind of common across the transportation sector that this is just kind of the way that things tend to go down.
We're also working with our state legislatures to see if we can be considered at least a regional district at the high school level so we can get reimbursed for transportation, because we're not a regional system. They don't allow it at this point in time, but we are talking to people to see if we can make a change there.
That change could be $200,000 to $400,000, depending on how they assess our costs for buses. So that would be huge for us, especially right now, if they would consider that. And honestly, I can't see what their fight is against it, since we do act on the high school level, we do act as a regional. So we're asking for a home rule petition. That means it's a piece of legislation that's written just for us. And in this case, it might be written for us and the 4 other districts in the state, since we all are in the same situation to go through. And I know the town administrator is set up for discussion with our state delegation to talk about that, see if they can get it. That would, again, be huge for us. Our high school tuitions, yes, we've negotiated some new contracts. It's going to be a year or two before we really see some savings in those. Um, those costs were going up on average 6, 7, 8% a year. We had no control over it because the way the fund was written. The way it's been negotiated now it's going to be great. It's going to go up basically at the same rate that Chapter 70 goes up. So it's written now, which is what we want. We wanted it to be fair. As we said before, special education costs, those are unknown. They happen and they change every year. People move in, people move out. Lately students have more needs and we have better evaluation tools and techniques, so those costs continue to rise. And other than that, we have aging buildings. So we do the best to maintain our buildings. And my report that I give on my budget, my facilities budget later on tonight, I'll fill you in on some of the work we've been doing, doing upkeep and maintenance and repairs on our buildings, where if we have, again, additional funding, we can do even more. So, and the last one, of course, like I said before, energy and utilities. Those we have no control over, as anyone who just fills their tank now knows they went from $45 to fill it to almost $100 to fill it. We have the same thing. We have 10,000 gallon oil tanks under the ground. They get filled all winter. So we do our best with that. But overall, like I said, our salaries are under 3%. And that's where the bulk of our funds are, and that's where our focus is when we negotiate contracts. To keep something that's good for us to maintain.
A couple of questions. Number one, we got 3% in ongoing expenses, cost of, the salary. The other percentage is, how much of that is extraordinary and unforeseen?
So overall, you could say another 3%, probably double that amount.
Because that is a factor when if you're seeking to supplement the budget, with stabilization or free cash, it's unforeseen what we're facing. That 3%, and we should probably figure that, that we should not having, for example, if the price of fuel has gone up, we should not have a child's education being impacted by that.
So what you're saying is something that's temporary. This high
Well, it would be, yes.
price is temporary. So
correct. So
that's a good point. It's a one-time expense.
We should work very much on that. Secondly of all, if we went up in 2024, I think budget went up 2%. Okay. In 2025, it went up 0.8%. We're practically level funded.
Yes.
Okay. Now it seems that this year, negating the unforeseen figure, that it's going to be about 3%.
Yes.
Am I correct on that?
Correct.
So that, if you look at an average, that we go 2, 1, and 3 in 3 years, we've gone below the cost of living as far as increase. Am I correct?
Yes, it's about 2% a year, so yes.
Right, exactly. Now, when you factor in, has state aid kept up more than 2% to the town in the last 3 years? Do you know that? Would know that figure?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it has not. Because I think we have about $1.9 million this year, and it went up about $41,000 when I looked. So 10% of that $1.9 million would be $190,000, and then 1/5 of that is about 40. So, yeah.
So my question would be, since we have been below, we had the 2.5 restrictions, so the budget, available cash has gone up 2.5. We haven't reached that figure in our own expenditures, that percentage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So what the argument to the state is, we've maintained those costs that we can, but stuff like health insurance, okay, and stuff like energy costs have gone up. The state should go up some more too, and
Right.
what they reimburse us is what you're saying.
The question I'm driving at is that, we hear the old gamut about structural deficits, and it seems that we're not the party to that.
Correct.
And I want to make that quite clear publicly that it's not, school spending that is causing this, the so-called structural deficit. The structural deficit is that you have less income and more expenditures, and that we're not into that, in my estimation, into that category. And we're going to hear maybe that war cry at the town meeting when it's not true.
Correct.
And I think we should, let the public know of the real facts. And, that we're not, it's a revenue issue in town, and that therefore it's got to, be solved, but it can't be solved on the backs of our, the educational quality, of our kids or staff having their careers ended. So I think that
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Hopper. I think, so to that point, right, if I remember correctly as it relates to revenue, town maybe had 960K of increase in revenue, and 930 is essentially gone, right, before healthcare increases, whatever, before we even get to looking at any of the town department budgets, right? So you've got 30K available. So there's much bigger issues in play in terms of, out of control or frivolous spending. And one of the things I worry about is when we see that our options are level funded, cut 20 positions, or a constraint-driven budget and cut 8. Well, cutting 8 sounds a lot better than 20, but I don't want to be desensitized to cutting 8 positions, because it's not just 8 positions. It's 8 this year, it was 6 last year, and it was 8 before that. So now we're at 22. And so it's not sustainable, right? We're moving back in the direction of where we were in 2014 when we had a DESE report that talked about all the places we were falling down and failing. And so when does it stop, right? And so I listened to the finance committee meeting the other night, and the previous or outgoing town administrator, made a comment that I found a little disturbing. And the comment was, well, there were a couple, but the one that I'll talk about now is, he was talking about the school budget is going to be voted on next week, and hopefully the school will be reasonable. Well, we're cutting 8 positions, and we cut 6 last year and 8 the year before, and I guess I don't know what their definition of reasonable is, because this doesn't really seem very sustainable or reasonable when you're talking about trying to have a high-functioning school district. And so, to Mr. Mason's comment earlier, and I worry about, there's a lot of kids who specialties is what gets them here and what keeps them engaged, right? And those are often the first things to go. So what happens to those kids when we have no more specialties, right? And so there's so many issues and problems with it. I can't even begin to hit on all of them. But the main point is I don't want to be desensitized to 8 just because it looks a lot better than cutting 21, because 8 sucks too.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I don't want to take it, but you take a look at what's happening on the national scene, but it comes right down to Acushnet. They're bringing back the draft. I don't know if anybody's aware of that. Congress passed that. That means that some of our youngsters will face that situation in the future. With a highly technical type of armed forces and so forth, it's you need recruits that are able to come up to standards educationally, to take advantage of what the armed services are going to be offering. Otherwise, that in turn, once they serve their time, there'll be the GI Bill and there'll be all that sort of thing. But what is important, is our youngsters have to be prepared, and that starts in the early grades. We all know that. So that's another factor when people say, well, we can, we can cut standards down. Children are going to pay, students are going to pay, and families are going to pay a steep price for without any reduction in the type of services, educational and emotional support services and so forth that we're offering. They won't be able to take advantage of the quality high school that we're now, curriculums that we now moved into. They just won't. And they'll pay a long-term price for that. And so therefore I just want to toss out that. I toss about property values and how, be affected by poor education. But I think this is even more compelling to think of what the future of what students are going to be have a need in the future. So I just wanted to toss that out as some of my, we're talking to the general public and whether how much do they want to support the schools. Thank you. I'm sorry, I've been so loquacious.
Don't apologize. Anybody else?
It looked like everybody was going to say something. So.
Give her a minute, she's thinking. You go ahead, that'll give her plenty of time.
Sure. So I think there's a couple of important points to bring up, and one of them was mentioned during the joint meeting that we had with the Finance Committee and Select Board, but a big component of this school district's costs are out-of-district tuitions, and that includes high school tuitions to our tuition schools. Because of the changes that have been made this year to the vocational school admission system, now it's lottery-based across the entire school and across the entire state, and Acushnet has fewer seats at Old Colony than we have had in the past. Simply the case. So it is important to note that if a student were to go to a vocational school, Old Colony in this case, that the overall cost to the town is actually greater than the cost of that student attending a traditional high school. The cost for Old Colony tuitions do not come out of the school department budget. That gets paid directly by the town to Old Colony. But literally, we are going to see the tuition costs for our traditional high school students increase over the next couple of years because by nature we simply have fewer seats at Old Colony. If they can't go there, they're going to end up going to a regular high school or potentially a parochial school or some other setting. So that's something that we should certainly expect to continue in the future. I think we're at a point right now where we have, as a district, not just as a district, the school district, but as a town, been told that we need to do more with less. That's the rallying cry across the state, and all those point, and I know John and I and a number of other members have brought up the fact that there are many, many municipalities across the state that are facing serious financial hardships, especially this year, more so than any in previous years, at least in the recent past. So essentially, we are going to expect to see these financial hardships continue year over year over year. It's just the way that it is. And from a town standpoint, in many ways, the town's cut, to my mind, as deeply as it can in most respects. The school is now at a point where we've cut as deeply as we realistically can in most respects. In the past, we've maybe eliminated some positions that frankly we were having a difficult time filling, moved some teachers around to different positions within the school district. That's not really an option anymore. We don't have any notable unfilled positions that we can remove from the budget at this point. And to all those point, if we start taking money routinely out of building maintenance, well, one of the things that we saw come up numerous times during the Old Colony discussions the last time it went up to vote was community members asking Old Colony, why have you not done enough to maintain your buildings? Why do we need a new building? I don't necessarily think that those criticisms are justified. There's other complicated things with the Old Colony building that do necessitate more broad scope of work. But what's going to end up happening is we really only have two areas that we can cut from as a district. We can cut from programming, or we can cut from maintenance. And if we continue to cut from maintenance, I mean, eventually we're going to start seeing, cracked windows start leaking, more serious issues with water and mold infiltration, which are have been an ongoing topic of conversation that we're hopefully at some point going to move towards a solution for. Ultimately, what we need as a town and as a district is a repaired funding formula. That's the only way that we're going to get out of this. There's only three ways that the town budget and by extension the school budget can be fixed. One of them is by increases in town revenue, which frankly the town doesn't have very many ways to increase revenue. There are some things that could be done. I know that there's been some discussion about instituting trash fees. I don't want to see trash fees. It's a big chunk of money that could have a significant impact on the town budget, but frankly, it would only have that impact for 1 year because it would save us having, as a town, to cut that amount of money, but then we're up against the 8 ball again the next year. It's not an ongoing thing where we're going to keep generating more revenue from it. So it would be a patch solution, but a patch solution that could be very important and save some jobs, both from the district and from the town side. The other one is going to be legislatively. Increases in state funding to both the town and to the school district by reevaluating Chapter 70 funding formulas, increasing the amount of unrestricted local aid they're going to the towns that they can then spend a portion of on the school budget. And I know one of the things that got mentioned during all those presentation was the circuit breaker reimbursement. So for anybody who's not familiar, circuit breaker reimbursement is essentially the state repays a percentage of the special education costs that a district has to outlay in a given year during the next year's budget. All that money goes right back into the special education program, but that is not a fully funded program. Do you know offhand what the percentage on circuit breaker reimbursement is?
Yeah, so the district's responsible to pay the first about $43,000 or $45,000 in cost of the student. Then any costs above that, we get reimbursed 75%.
So 45,000-ish per student, and then we get reimbursed 75% of the overage?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things, and if we're talking specific legislative action, and if anybody out in the audience isn't taking notes, these are the things that you really should be considering writing your state representatives to demand. At this point, we're about 3 years too late for this. We're up against the wall now. But realistically, what we need is 100% funded circuit breaker, period. We are seeing, to all those points, both through an increase in student need and improvements in screening methods to find students who may have needs that would have flown under the radar in the past, that special education costs are ballooning drastically. And when we're having to incur, as a district, the first significant chunk, $45,000, $46,000 per student, and then we're only getting reimbursed 75% of any costs over and above that amount, well, we can see why that portion of the school budget would start ballooning rapidly. So requesting 100% circuit breaker funding would be huge. The other one, to all those points before, is looking for regional transportation reimbursement for tuitioned districts, not just for us, for any tuition districts. They really should be getting reimbursement for the transportation costs incurred. And another, excuse me, another big one is we as a state cannot be doing this whole governor's budget, supplemental budget, amount of money that we're getting per student just at a base level, varying so much from year to year. That number really needs to be increased across the board on a permanent basis, because we're talking about our town budget, and we're one of the towns in the state that has their budget discussions pretty late in the year. I mean, a lot of towns have already had their town meetings, and they had to figure this out previous to now. The fact that we don't have an actual number of how much money we're going to get paid by the state per student at this point in the game is outrageous. That's like asking a household to make a budget without knowing what 10 or 20% of their overall income is going to be for the next year. You just can't do it. So those are three things that I feel very, very, very strongly we need to be leaning hard on our legislative body to change in short order. This is not something that can happen in 2 or 3 years. This needs to happen it's not going to happen this session at this point, unfortunately, but in the next legislative session there needs to be serious work on it. Since we know that the town can't increase revenue rapidly, we're not going to see big changes to legislative funding levels rapidly. The only other way that we as a district and as a town can generate additional revenue to maintain town and district services, and there's a lot of people in the town that are not going to like it, but it is to present a Proposition 2.5 override. I've said it before, I'm not asking anybody else on school committee to get behind me when I say that we, as a town, really need to seriously consider a Prop 2.5 override, but it's the reality of the situation. I'm going to pull a John Howcroft. I brought a newspaper with me. First time. He's always good at that. So this is in the Fairhaven Neighborhood News. Fairhaven, which is facing an even more dire budgetary crisis than we are right now, they, as a stopgap measure at their town meeting on the 2nd of this month, voted to approve placing essentially a Proposition 2.5 override on the ballot, which the town will then be voting on, which would cover their funding gap for this year. It's a short-term Prop 2.5 override, which would give the town administration time to do a more full-boat overview on what the actual financial needs of the town are going to be over the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, we've got town meeting in a month and a half at this point. I know that presenting the recommendation for a Proposition 2.5 override this late in the game is not a winning solution. We'd have to get support at town meeting, and we'd have to win at town ballot. And by we, I mean, again, the town. I'm not talking about the school district, because there are other town departments that have had to make significant cuts as well. There are needs that are not being met. There's only so many years that you can't fix windows, and there's only so many years that you can't repave roads before you end up in, hurt. So I am going to ask everybody in the audience, both virtually and in person, to please, if you have not written your legislators, do it. It is past time to do it. Please do it. I've done it 4 or 5 times myself, and I know there's other people at this stage that have done it. The towns have done it. The municipalities have gotten together as communities larger communities to do it. But they need to hear from the residents. They need to hear from the voters. And the other one is, please, please, have an open mind when it comes to discussing a Proposition 2.5 override, because frankly, I think while I don't want to see us have to go for one every year or every 3 years or every 5 years, we're in a crisis right now. It needs to be on the table. That's all I got.
Mr. Chairman, no, just one.
You may.
When is the date of the town meeting?
June 15th.
June 15th.
Oh, June 15th. I thought it was later than that.
Town meeting's June 15th. It's crucial when we're talking specifically not long range, but immediate need vote. It's a town meeting. So pass the word, be there. That's all I'm going to say. We can talk about 2.5 in the future, and we can talk about formulas and so forth, but that is for the future. And revenue enhancement should be one as well.
Yeah.
But the most immediate thing is pay attention, bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring your people that are not your friends, but at least be there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Mr. Ellis, I couldn't agree more. And I think the reality is whatever the potential solutions are, whether they're 2.5s, whether they were trash fees, I don't care. I think we should be discussing and talking about what those things are, because sitting back here and doing nothing and having this conversation again next year is not a viable, sustainable alternative to a high-functioning school system. We did try to have a couple of our representatives here tonight. Unfortunately, I think probably people saw there was a state trooper that died, and so those folks are at the funeral. But we did try to get a couple of our reps here tonight so that they could participate and hear this conversation. But we will continue to work on that from our perch here.
It'll be on
hear it all
YouTube.
the
We can
time.
send them a link and a timestamp.
Ebony,
Go there.
go ahead, Ebony.
Okay, I guess I should have spoken before.
Yes.
That's,
You had time to think.
Yes, I did. So I have been meeting with our state representatives and advocating for our school on behalf of our school committee and our school. Also, I wanted to say that I think one of the things that I noticed too, when we're talking about specialties and losing that, so many of our children come to school for that. That's the excitement that gets our kids here. So many kids have a hard time leaving the house in the morning. I remember when my child was young and trying to get him out the door to get to school. Sometimes I'm not proud, did bribe him to get here, did whatever I had to. But for taking specialties away, we also have kids that have such a difficult time with social skills, and that's they're not allowed to talk in the classes other than the teamwork. So to think about taking away specialties, to me, it breaks my heart because so many of our kids come here for a sense of safety. You don't know what's going on in these kids' homes. They come here to be able to socialize with their friends and see their friends that they may not be able to otherwise. So that scares me to hear that we might be considering that. I, in my heart of hearts, am not considering that, but that's something that I had to put out there, that specialties aren't a luxury. It's a necessity for our kids. So, agreed.
Could I say something? Thank you for that. I just wanted to say, in addition, that cutting positions and programs in an attempt to balance the budget during difficult times is not always a successful way to balance the budget, because if we look at special ed eligibility, we have to determine two things, right? Is there a disability, and then does the student require specially designed instruction to make effective progress? When you do things like cut specialties and we disenfranchise students, that affects their ability to attend to task. It affects their ability to attend, period. It affects their ability to behave in some instances, right? When we do things like increase class size and we reduce individual attention to students, it affects their ability to perform. And so when we have students with disabilities who may in fact be able to make effective progress in the general ed setting during good times, that formula changes as soon as all of these things happen, because they do impact our most vulnerable students. And when we sit at the table to do eligibility meetings, we now look at whether or not the student with a disability requires specially designed instruction to make effective progress. And without all of these things in play that are actually integral to a good school program, we in fact find more kids eligible, because in that setting they then require these services, and that costs money. So sometimes what we think is balancing the budget really is not, because then we have to comply with IDEA regulations, and as soon as we go over certain ratios, we're then in the position of having to post for additional staff members to meet the needs of our students who are on IEPs. So it is just another point of consideration when we think about making decisions to balance the budget.
And truancy too. It's something that the truancy rate's going to go up because we don't have that joy to school.
And those students that have special needs are using this. We use the specialty time as a teacher, and those are the times that those kids can be included in the general population and learn from their peers that are quickly developing. And so,
And in many ways,
that's a really good point.
I mean,
Really
yeah.
good point.
Yeah, I mean, when you start looking at razor thin budget lines, and I think to Colleen's point, maybe not to put too fine a point on it, you could end up doing $200,000 in education cuts and end up incurring $300,000 in additional special education expenses as a result of that.
And I'm not talking about even our substantially separate program students or our out-of-district students. I'm talking about our inclusion students,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So it is a domino effect and something to consider.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Ellis, you alluded to something earlier that generally speaking, we're cutting positions. There's no end in sight. We also have two aging buildings that actually we should be working towards a capital plan here. in terms of how we maintain the buildings. We spent $45,000 to keep the boilers afloat last year. Those are 50-year-old boilers. Like, if one thing snaps, where is that coming from? So
We did have that happen this past weekend.
I heard.
And it was,
Oh, really? I didn't hear
Yes.
I got the bill today, it's almost $7,000.
right, so that's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of what we're talking about, it's not. If we have something significant happen, we are operating on razor-thin margins across every aspect of our budgets, our schools. We need plans. We need contingencies. So, and I understand all of the challenges at the town. So this is the reality. Like, there's solutions we can work on longer term, but unfortunately, like, we have to play the cards that are in front of us right now. And so June 15th. So I think we've said all that has to be said. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the superintendent's recommended fiscal year 26-27 school operating budget of $17,691,457, which translates to our constraint-driven budget.
So motion.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mrs. McGlynn?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And it was a reluctant recommendation, of
Well.
course.
Preschool?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Next on my report, we have a proposed preschool schedule change for school year 26-27. I would call Mrs. Chesney and Ms. Doyle to the podium to talk about a possible change. It's primarily a change in hours, so we can offer 4 seats too. But I'll let them explain.
Thank you. Good evening, school committee and Dr. Bailey. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, along with Mrs. Chesney, to talk about this potential proposal for consideration. As part of our work to analyze the best program structures for students, Ms. Chesney and I collected some information regarding the 5 half-day preschool program model. We wanted to share the information that we've collected so far for your consideration. As you know, we currently offer a 2.5-day-a-week program. Transitioning to 5 half-days has the following benefits to students: preventing burnout. Young children, ages 3 and 4, often get overwhelmed by full days with new stimulation. Half-days allow them to come home to reset, process emotions, and rest and return. Optimal learning windows. Research indicates that young children learn best in short, focused sessions followed by downtime. Half-day programs provide high-quality learning without the fatigue that hinders information retention. And that's a quote from the National Association for the Education of Young Children. Balancing structure and home time. It offers daily social interaction and school routine while leaving afternoons free for family play or nap time. Easier transitions. For children new to school, shorter days act as a gentle introduction to routines and independence, helping them build confidence without intense separation anxiety. Support for sleep routines. Many preschoolers still require naps, which are hard to manage in high-activity, full-day programming. In addition to the positive attributes above, the creation of 5-day morning and afternoon sessions allows plenty of room for students to be placed in either the inclusion or substantially separate program model with consistent staff and peers. This creates the opportunity for healthy social and free play routines with plenty of practice. This model prevents regression of skills for all students, most importantly our students with disabilities, because there is less time between sessions during the week and after the weekend. This also allows for more open spots for any student coming to preschool from early intervention or for those who are new in town, while still welcoming peer models. And this new structure would not change the curriculum model currently in place. Ms. Chesney has some additional information to share with you at this time.
So thank you, Colleen. I'm just going to go to this slide so you can see what we are doing right now compared to what the proposal would be as far as how many days per year that the kids are in the building versus what our proposal would be, which is why that consistency would really be key here. And I did bring Miss Berg, one of our preschool teachers. We are lucky enough that she has actually taught both of these models. Do you want to come on up and talk about it for a second? And thank you so much for being here. She was talking, I'm going to let you talk about some of the challenges you've seen with the model that we have and some of the benefits that you've seen in your previous. Okay, because I know we talked today about a challenge that you had with students
Yeah.
with the consistency.
Yes. So I was initially really excited at this model because I had previously had the 2 half days and it was nice, but it's a very busy day. It's, one leaves, the next comes. So I was really excited about this, but I've seen how damaging it is. When you look at overall the kids that are coming 5 days, they're building friendships. They're some of them who are going to kindergarten. That's what it's going to be when they go to kindergarten. We have the 3-year-olds right now, so in the 2.5 days, the 3-year-olds after lunchtime, they just melt down, all of them, because they're tired, they don't sleep. We have a little rest time, but none of them sleep. I've had other students that, I had one little girl that it took her until January because she'd come Monday, Tuesday, half day Wednesday, and the half day she wouldn't be crying. She'd be crying because it was new. But then by Wednesday she was doing better. Come back Monday after having 4 days, no school, just repeating the cycle over and over. I just recently have a little girl that the mom, she's special ed, and the mom was worried about her going to kindergarten because she's going to be 5 in August, so she should be going to kindergarten. But her language and her social skills, mom's worried about. So I researched it myself because she's very bright in a lot of areas, and she really needs structure, which all kids, but a special ed especially, that routine and that structure just every day, and she thrives in it. So I researched it. I sat with the parents. They wanted to talk about it, and I said, in my opinion, she really needs to move forward because she's with 3-year-olds here, and she's only here 2.5 days. Might be different. I might be saying something different that, she can stay, in pre-K, if that's how you feel, that might benefit her. However, with just the 2.5 days, so the mom was going to a developmental specialist. She had an appointment. I said, also talk about that with that doctor. Tell them it's 2.5 days. She's young, so maybe, they'll recommend, keep her, discuss all that. And she emailed me back right after that and said, I feel so much better. The doctor said she should be in school 5 days. Special ed, she needs that socialization. She needs that consistency. Overall, I honestly can't think of it being beneficial, the 2.5 days. Sometimes the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kids might have school all week, and then depending, Wednesday was a half day and then a vacation, that other group never even got the learning and the lessons so it's not usually on an even level. Whereas if they're going at half day, if there's no school, they both don't have any school. So I've seen a lot of that where one group is getting different learning than the other group, and just the long gaps of no school, and that's difficult for them to come back in and get back into routines and just have that consistency. So I'm totally for that. I love the new half day. I think the kids benefit in every way having that. And I did the other model as well. And I was telling Ms. Chesney that I truly believe that the curriculum, you can get just as much in, because academically, when we have the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, we would do it in small groups, but have rotating we'd have math and different activities during that group time, whereas now we have groups and they're ELA, but then later in the afternoon we do the math, so you just manage it differently, but you're still getting in those same things in short periods, which is better for young kids. It's hard for them to sit and attend for long periods anyway. No rest time, and rest time is a there's not much resting. It's stressful because you mostly just tell them, no, we're quiet, it's quiet time. So overall, I really think that the kids benefit from having that model.
And I just wanted to say that, thank you, Kim, I really appreciate that. Not only is it a programmatically responsible model for our students, but it's also fiscally responsible because having the 5-day, half-day model allows us to maintain the same level of staffing and allows our students to build relationships with that staff, but still keeps additional spots open for kids that come in unexpectedly from EI or who move into town, as well as the potential that we're researching for looking at how it might affect our ability to increase the peer models that come in. And so it both balances programmatic benefit to students with fiscal responsibility.
I also did want to mention when students exit out of EI after their 3rd birthday, coming into a two full days and a half day model is very difficult adjustment for them. So they definitely would benefit from a much shorter day when they have not been to school yet. Sometimes very few of them are even in programs that where they would be out of their parents' home for a while. So there's that. And then the other issue that we've had, not only did Ms. Berg mention how sometimes students would not be able to come to school maybe one day out of the week and then there would be a big break. It also affects how those students have access to service providers as well. When we have half days, there are more opportunities for them, and we can make sure that those services continue to be delivered in a consistent way. And so we did come up with this is just a placeholder, basically just to see how much time. It does not change the amount of time that students are going to be receiving time with their teachers. It's just we're not necessarily married to those exact times. I want to work with the preschool team and Colleen and kind of come together with something that makes sense to make sure that people can still maintain that team collaboration and all of that. So we have to kind of look at that, but this is a placeholder kind of possibility. And so what we would be asking would be for you to consider this as a possibility for hopefully the 26-27 year.
Mrs. Chesney, I know you sent out letters
Yes.
to the
I want to say
students who registered.
I sent out about 60 or so letters. I did receive 3 letters in 3 responses. And while people were saying it sounds like a great idea, they were worried about their own situation because they might have already planned on working, for example, on the days that their child was going to be in the full day. So there is that consideration, and that is very real. However, that does not necessarily, in my opinion, strongly counteract the best practice of 5 shorter sessions a day. I don't know if that, you want to say anything to that too?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Just going over the PowerPoint, and I didn't really speak about it much, but it says the proposed changes, I don't know if that was on slide 2, but every minute of the half day is instructional.
No, what I meant was as opposed to naps.
So no filler, what does that mean?
Naps.
That's already there, it says no lunch, no rest, no filler.
Well,
Is that filler free play?
No. Basically, the program would still be as it is right now. The transitions that we would have going from nap time, going from regular time to nap time, from nap time to regular instruction time, those parts would be gone.
I guess I'd like to see like a schedule, like what it would look like. Because I mean, for me, personally, I'm building something that's
Well, I mean,
play-based.
it would basically be what Ms. Berg was saying. She would be the best person to say. I mean, she would be able to talk a little bit more about it, but it would be very similar to what she's doing now, but spread over the 5 days. It would be exactly what you're doing now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you come and talk about that. It's not the schedule and the curriculum, rather the schedule will change. The curriculum and what they do every day will not change. They will just not be, how long is your nap time, by the way?
25 minutes.
25, yeah. So they will not be having that 25, which essentially by the time you start them and finish them, it's like 30.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that gives us back an hour a week.
So that hour a week, what will they be doing? Is that instructional for like free play?
So they'll still have all the things, because it is play-based, so they'll have all those things still in the classroom where they have a recess time, and they have play centers, which is play-based. And for when I was saying the only part where it's different is like now we have a longer day, so we can do ELA groups with the 3 tables of kids, and later on in the afternoon we're doing science and math groups, whereas we do them at 3 tables and rotate, so they're getting 3 activities, but we rotate either the kids or we change the activities at the table through it. So we still can get in. Actually, I almost feel like you get more because you're there for 5 days, and you can still get in just as much of that learning time through through the table time activities. All the other things still exist. You still have allotted time for play centers, and you have the recess, you have a snack time, but you don't have the rest time, and the shorter day, like I said, for the 3-year-olds and the younger ones is really makes a big difference, because the ending after lunch time, it's a lot of them are just falling apart. They're tired, and they do not rest, and there's not, yeah. So doing both of them, I'm able to see that it's much more consistent too. So one class leaves, the next class comes in, you're repeating everything you did. Whereas this model, sometimes you're like, oh, well, did they? Or like I said, there's a day off, or there were snow days, and they're never on the same. It becomes very confusing. I've also had kids, they need to know their schedule. That they thrive on that, having that routine, and they say to me all the time, is it a rest day today? Is it a short day? Because Wednesday is a half day for them now. So they have 2 full days. But then Wednesday when they come, their schedule's totally different. Their time they leave is different. And they ask me that. And that's, that's one of the things they come because they don't want to have the rest time. So they say, is it a short day? They want the short day. But it's just, it's problematic to me that they don't have that understanding of that schedule, because it's not.
You can't internalize it because it's
Right,
changing
because
at
it's
least
different.
one time. Yeah.
And because of the lack of consistency throughout the week, meaning, to Kim's point, if we take a student with significant disabilities and their half day is Wednesday, they go home for that second half of the day, they're out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By the time they come back on Monday, the data shows that they regress because of all of that time off. And so then, in order to prevent regression for them, I have to build programs for the kids with the most vulnerable needs that are in addition to the 2.5 days. So that also could potentially mean, depending on how many kids come in from EI every year, which I can't predict to a finite point, that there could be the potential of them having to open an additional classroom to prevent regression for our most vulnerable students. So that's just another point to consider. So it's really, a proposal that is programmatically responsible, best developmentally for kids, fiscally responsible, and that just inherently caters to our most vulnerable populations.
Do we have a sense of how many other districts have moved or are moving to this model?
I don't know too many districts that have the model that we have.
I've tried to find one with this model.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one of your points that you made too about absences being, inequitably impactful if a kid misses a full day versus missing a half day. Well, I mean, right now, if we have a snow day on one of the full days, it's not like that is going to be easy to make up. And if a kid is sick or has a doctor's appointment or some other extenuating circumstance, whatever it may be, having a consistent half-day schedule would mean that the impact would be the same regardless of which day they miss, which to my mind makes it a lot easier to plan for from a makeup standpoint and keeping kids on pace, but also just a consistency standpoint for the kids. I know, when my children went to preschool, if my wife and I had to, put them in there for the whole day, they were there for 5-6 hours. they were pretty much cooked by the time we picked them up. So the half-day model just seems to make sense from a parenting standpoint too.
And I think that the socialization and the social emotional for them to be with their peers every day makes a huge difference. And like I said, when I told that mom, ask the developmental, specialist you're going to see, tell them the whole scenario. She was so happy because she was really nervous about sending her off, but she said no. That's what they told me, that just 2.5 days isn't enough. She's special, that she needs that social emotional, she needs to be with her peers. And then I did think, even if it was half day, then I might have been considering, maybe she should stay here. But to just have 2.5 days, I think they definitely benefit from being 5 days with each other.
Yeah, just a couple of questions to start off with. On no lunch and rest counted towards service hours. They're still going to have lunch, aren't they?
So I talked to Shelley Mello about that, and there might be, sometimes a session will end up, that's why I didn't want to say that we were 100% attached to that previous slide, that schedule. If students are in school when lunch is served, preschool or not, we still have to give them lunch, so we might have to tweak our schedule a little bit to allow for that.
Sure.
It's a 20-minute lunch minimum for preschool, so that's why I want to build that schedule with the preschool team as well and get their input. So maybe not everybody who comes to preschool, depending on the time they enter, would end up being required to have lunch. So that's the state requirement.
Especially with early childhood education, many times the lunchtime is a learning situation. It's not just a feeding. And they usually, especially the Head Start model, that they would they would have like family style, sit down with each, like a family does, and it would lead to a great deal of socialization and verbal stimulation, rather than just feeding them. You know what I'm saying? And this model doesn't seem to want to bring that aspect in, and it's a very important, learning, opportunity for preschoolers.
Unfortunately, that's not the model that we have for lunch, what you're describing with the family.
Yeah, well,
so
you're making it even worse, I think.
Okay. They're definitely, preschoolers are learning a lot of skills, and being at lunch is one of them. And it can be very challenging. Right now, preschoolers are having their lunches in the classrooms because of the safety issues that we were having. So they're learning a lot of things, lunch being one of them. And it comes with it a little bit of a learning curve on their part, I guess.
When at that age, this rapid, I think by the time the 50% or 40% of the IQ has already been developed in children. You know what I'm saying? So there are nutritional needs that are far more than, say, youngsters that are in the 7th grade. That's number one. So there's got to be more sensitivity to a child's at that age nutritional needs. So I think that in this model you have, I wish it would be modified to start dealing with that.
And we can look at that.
The second one of that question I have was, you said recess time for free play.
There's recess time and free play that are built into the preschool schedules, and they will continue.
So your instructional format, so to speak, is basically free play type of activities?
The activities, we have a curriculum. They are play-based. There's a lot of social and emotional type of activities built in as well. There's so many things that happen in our preschool, but it's not just. I don't know how to
answer that.
Yeah,
one.
I don't want to say that.
So it's play centers, which is then we'll open up the kitchen area, different centers, the Lego table, the sand table, and we're helping them with those skills on how to play in those areas. So they're building with peers at the Lego table, or so it's not per se free play. We open up different centers where, like we just had, we were learning about plants. So I opened one of the centers was a florist shop. So one is selling flowers to, the adults are supporting it in the room. But we taught them how to, one is working at the flower shop, one is coming and buying flowers. You're asking them, do you want a bouquet or do you want it in a vase? And then one is paying at the register. So when we're saying play centers, it's that sort of structured learning. And then they have some recess time where they get to go outside, and that's their free play where they can go on the swings or run around, and sometimes if it's raining, it's in the class. We'll dance and play games to songs or
It appears to me,
instructional games.
How long is the unstructured time?
20 minutes recess time? Yes, it's like 20 minutes.
Not long.
But then they have the play centers as well, and that's
structured. 5 consistent days of that same practice is better than 2.5. Is really the basis of our proposal for your consideration.
So I guess, yeah, I had a couple. One is like when we're going back to lunches again, some of our families don't have food at home. Like I'm just thinking about those families and SNAP benefits that got cut for a period of time and the cost of food nowadays. And so cutting lunch might mean that this kid does not get food too, because a lot of
that student that was there, well, it depends, because one of you said in that model, one of the classes would be getting lunch because those students are in the building, so they'd be getting lunch 5 days a week, and the others would be getting a snack time.
I also was starting to talk to Shelley Mello about that exact issue. What would we do for someone if we were worried about food insecurity?
Okay. And then my other thing was, I think one of the items on here were like the dysregulation and acting out. But I think kids need to learn how to deal with that and process that and learn those coping strategies. And starting at a younger age, because adults don't have it right now.
And they'd be able to.
Me on some traffic days, but.
And they'd be able to practice it 5 days a week instead of 2.5. I mean, I think that's, it's more consistent.
The research is clear on the dysregulation as the longer of a day, which especially the most young and most vulnerable students. So one thing that right now that we're faced with, if we have someone who turns 3 years old and they need significant needs, they have 2 full days and they're not able to, they end up being very dysregulated for sometimes a couple of hours even. And they're not ready to learn it. They're not understanding why they're doing that. And so that to me does not make sense if it's not developmentally appropriate.
Right, I get, I mean, there's going to be,
Right.
there's always an array. But then I'm thinking, okay, well, then there's a 4-year-old, and then that's going to be more developed. And 2 hours and 2.5 hours is not enough without having that play and inclusion, like having to be able to engage in play activities to learn.
And if we were looking at making a 5 full day a week preschool, that would be great. But we just had a very heated budget discussion. And our preschool right now, what we take in does not cover what we have. So, but that is something that we have talked about a lot.
Is there an option for a tuition base, or can you not do that? Full day.
I mean,
like right now, it would be such a big lift because tuition right now doesn't cover what we have, because he said 50,000, but we have like 60 kids. So it doesn't begin to cover what our cost would be even for 2 of the paras. So,
and what typically happens, again, is it's our most vulnerable population, where the data shows that the 2.5 day model does not prevent regression because of that lag time. And our classrooms are becoming so full that the requirement will then be that I have to ask to open an additional classroom for those 2.5 days to create another substantially separate classroom for kids to either come 5 days because they're on an IEP, right? And so this is a way to balance the programmatic and the fiscal while creating equity for all and having smaller class sizes, while also considering how we might be able to add more typically developing peers. So, I don't think either model is perfect. I mean, to Leah's point, if we could offer all preschool students a 5 full day a week model, I think that would be what we would hope, right? I mean, it would be nice if you could select based on
a flexible model. It would be my dream.
Yeah, select based on what your child needs, right? But I mean, we are under constraints in terms of what we're able to provide, and we're trying to provide what we think is best for our students at large, programmatically and fiscally.
So can I ask the committee, I'm sensing some
It's a tough choice.
uncomfortability. And so I don't get the sense that maybe people are in a position tonight to feel like they're ready to support this. And so, or at least the majority, I think. And so I think it's something we should continue to have conversation around and what this would look like, and give the committee an opportunity maybe to ask additional questions, provide additional feedback to maybe help shape this in a way that maybe we could get to a place where the committee supports it. But I'm feeling like we're not there right now, so I suggest we table this for further discussion.
I'll make that as a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
If we could, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. If we
No
could,
motions to table are not debatable, by the way.
yeah,
Vote it up and down.
we can do the vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
If I could
Go ahead.
request that we add this as an agenda item at the next regular school committee meeting, just so we can continue to have regular conversations on this. It'll give us an opportunity to ask any questions that we might have. And then, I mean, it's not something I want to revisit in 6 months. I'd really
No, I think we should.
stay on top.
I think I'm fine with that. My only thought around that would be, however, if something develops that is specific to the budget, that requires us at that June meeting to be laser focused on a budget conversation, that we maybe would do that, and we can find the opportunity to talk about this at the absolute next available opportunity. My only concern is I don't want to, if it gets to that, distract from what is priority A right
point.
now, which is
Now,
Yeah.
I want
laser
to
focus on
quite
budget.
clear to Mr. Chair that we have a distinct philosophy. I see a confusion in the philosophy of, so whether it's teacher directed or whether it's child centered. I'm not getting a grasp of that, number one, and I'd like that clarified.
I'm not following. What do you mean?
Well, you mentioned sometimes you were directing the kids. Children many times learn on their own. Children learn by doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a famous quote with John Dewey, I think. But anyway, so how are your learning centers, what I call?
I just wanted to clarify, we're not actually discussing changing the way the preschools are.
Well, I
run.
think
We're only trying to present a possible, more developmentally appropriate and doable way for children to engage in that program. So, I actually would love anyone to come in and visit Kim's class and see how it's run, because it would be the same program that she has right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think if anybody wanted to research it, because I even researched it myself, because I've worked in a lot of different, I've done the full day. Some districts do, like I had the half day, 5 days, but then there was a lottery system for 5-year-olds, not all of them, integrated, special ed and typicals. So they didn't all get it, but it was a full day. Only kids that were going to kindergarten the following year, which was great because they needed more time in the classroom. The next year they're going to be doing that, and then it's not appropriate for the 3-year-olds to be there full day. So, but this is a smaller district, but I did the research. Even I've worked in those situations, and I know myself seeing the kids and how they're coming in and crying after the breaks and just seeing how they have the different gaps. But I then also researched it, and I was trying to find districts that would use this sort of model, because I find it very confusing even for the kids and not developmentally appropriate, and I couldn't find any support, so I think just looking at that as far as for them educationally what's best, I think you'd see that too if you look.
Okay, so I think we're saying that we're I'm very open, and I think the committee's open to talking more about this and hopefully getting to a place where maybe there's a workable solution, but I think there's work to do to possibly get there. We plan for June, again, I think that will be fine unless something unforeseen comes up.
Yeah, and I just want to say that obviously he's very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I said, let's start the conversation, and that's why in the agenda you see possible vote, because we haven't really talked about this before. But I wanted to hear, and I'm sure you all wanted to hear what they had to say, and I appreciate your time.
We appreciate your time, and you clearly have passion around this topic, so we look forward to hearing more about you relative to this.
I'm ecstatic, Mr. Chair, about having this discussion because the early childhood programs are probably the most effective, cost effective as far as development of children, and so it's probably, we talk about future cost savings, the more efficient your early childhood programs are, the more kids are performing at a later age. So I really appreciate the time and dedication. I really do. And I'm going to ask you a lot of tough questions. And like what are the medical, how the services provided for medical, for example, very crucial in diagnosing youngsters that have potential problems that can be rectified at 4 years old, rather than waiting till they're a later age. There's all those possibilities that we have. So I don't want to talk too much, but let's go.
So did
we'll
you
go
say
on.
there
We got
was,
some tough
there was
business ahead.
correspondence sent home to parents already about this, or like the parents are?
Yes, we had correspondence that we were proposing giving this presentation today.
We just wanted to be transparent with the parents who have already registered. It's my understanding after speaking with you is that some kids who have registered, you've been saying there may be a change.
Well, this is the thing. One of the things that I didn't really want to bring this up, but we have to decide one way or the other. Another thing that has happened in the past several times is because people have made a case that their child who has severe special needs 5 days. We have had to then provide the child with a 5-day, 2.5, 5-day a week program, and it's not appropriate. And we also we don't have preschool for 5 full days in that inclusion model. So that's another problem, and we do continue to get those kinds of requests, and we don't have a model that will allow for that consistency. So the thing that I found very remarkable is that Ms. Berg has not heard a lot of negative comments by it. I've only had 3. Maybe the people who like the 5-day, maybe they are just thinking, I don't know. So I don't know. We just need to have one way or the other because we are registering people right now.
Yeah, and I think that was part of my point with wanting to, hopefully, if at all possible, talk it out and maybe bring it to a vote next month, because realistically speaking, if parents are already registering, we can't be making a decision about this when it's already summer break. Well, we can't be rushed into it. It doesn't mean that we have to vote for it now, but we could say it's not appropriate for this year, but we want to move forward next year. But what I'm saying is we can't make a decision to change the schedule when it's already July or August and the kids are going to be coming back to school in September.
Right, and we brought it up to parents because we were going to be speaking about it today, and we thought it would be better coming from us first. Instead of them learning about it today. But it's certainly something, I know we're tabling it right now, and it's certainly something that we could do in the future after additional discussions, research and data review, etc. But we felt it important enough, given the reasons that we have all observed, to at least broach the subject. So.
If I could add one more thing, because I know you just said how you've had some students that special needs and the parents are requesting 5-day because that's beneficial to them. I have other parents too that they would want the 5 days as well, or and I say how do we do that where we can just let 1 or we just let 2? So then it would become who wants to do it, and
we would not be able to sustain that.
And it's not good because the one that I have that does it, Monday, Tuesday. Now, come Wednesday morning, he does the morning session, and then he also does the afternoon, and that's the same exact activities and the same exact songs and the same exact everything. And then the rest of the week, Thursday and Friday, it's the same exact stuff we did. So he becomes behavioral, and we actually give him separate things. I come up with other curriculum things that match what we're doing, just because, it's not. He doesn't want to go do through the same. He starts becoming behavioral, which makes sense because he did all these activities, and so it, but then a lot of the parents will want their kids to do the double session, so they're there the 5 days, but so.
All right, well, I think we can plan for June again unless something happens. I don't know that in June we will be at a place. I mean, June is later than May, and so to make a change for next year is problems. But I think we can talk about where we're going and what we're, and if we can get there, we get there. So let's plan for it, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the Superintendent Summative Evaluation, and that is a discussion. Okay, thank you. I'm very cognizant of the time as well, and this is a continuation, this is a working document. As you know, my evaluation cycle is a 2-year cycle. This is year 1 of a 2-year cycle. According to DESE, you have to give me ratings each year, okay? So I'm gonna go through this kind of quickly, because a couple of months ago, we've already seen this, okay? SMART Goal 1, students will report increased engagement, safety, and positive school environment as measured by district benchmark surveys. And that's beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year for students in grades 3 through 8, with at least a 4-point increase in positive responses across these domains compared to spring 2025 baseline data. And we talked about this last time, the data is looking very good. Those are some example questions. And one of the things that I think has really helped in the climate with students is our initiatives with responsive classroom and our advisory at the middle school level. It really has seemed to make a big difference in both buildings, and we're doing a lot of PD for our staff over the last couple of years in both of those things. So we do feel like it is working. So you can see this is an example of morning meeting at the elementary school, and all of the students have it each day. This is an example at the middle school level with advisory. And again, we are just trying to create activities throughout the year that help students with that sense of belonging. My professional practice goal is I will strengthen district-wide strategic communications to enhance transparency, trust, and engagement among all Acushnet Public School stakeholders through targeted professional learning, including participation in the Leading Now Cohort 16, consultation with PR vendors, and collaboration with district and community partners. I will refine systems, practices, and messages that promote clear, consistent, and effective communication across the district. And those are just some of the examples of the things I've done with Leading Now. We went over this, and you'll have access to this throughout. And the strategic communication, we're continuing to work with Bill Foyle. We just recently had a workshop. SMART Goal 3, Acushnet Public Schools will collaboratively develop, approve, provide professional development, and implement an updated district strategic plan that clearly outlines district vision, mission, core values, strategic objectives, initiatives for continuous improvement, and success measures. And this is something we've been working really hard at. We have a parent who's been very actively participating in the process, and we hope to present that to the school committee very soon. It's just one of our meetings, a picture there. We've had 3 phases where we're building the foundation, building the plan, which is what we're doing now, and implementing the plan, obviously, will be for next year. We've had input from all stakeholders, from focus groups. We have a survey that's gone out. So we've had input from all areas, all stakeholders groups. And the last SMART goal is to continue to provide a safe and healthy learning environment that prioritizes the well-being of every Acushnet Public Schools community member. And you can see that we have safety and wellness committee meetings. We have a lot of professional development that's been driven by that committee in terms of what we're doing for PD. We have future focus that we've done. We continue to do assemblies, bike safety, anti-bullying. Next year, we're actually planning a traffic study with UMass Dartmouth to the engineer students to help us with our shoot issues, etc. So we're looking at everything to be thorough. We have what's called a past school safety and security checklist, which is our internal audit that we look at. We also have the AIM curriculum, which we've talked about before for the social and emotional learning component. And I did add tree inspections. I don't know if you heard the recent news in Melrose, but there was a tree, unfortunately, tragically, that fell on a playground and killed a student.
Okay.
So I was actually looking outside at our perimeter and our playgrounds, and I did contact Bob Hinckley, and I did ask him who was the most appropriate person, and he was going to get back to me in terms of who could inspect our trees. Because I do think that is really important. Nobody, I'm sure, in Melrose expected something like that to happen. Child was just on the playground, but there were 3 people hurt. 1 was killed tragically. So I do want to get our trees inspected. And then, of course, our ongoing air quality. We're continuing to work with Jesse as our partner with the town as well. So here are some pictures from our professional development. You see we have Colonel Gavigan right here. He came back to do Stop the Bleed training. We have our parent on this wellness committee who works at the hospital, who's a great resource. And we got a lot of resources from him actually. So standard 1, as you know, we all have 4 standards that we get evaluated on is instructional leadership. I've highlighted some of the areas. I'm not going to read this all to you, but I would say one of the biggest things that we've accomplished this year is the high school tuition agreements. I think that is huge for many years to come for our students. And also strategic planning. You will be seeing very shortly that we have a new strategic plan that we will be presenting and that you will be voting on. And as you know, with all of the new curriculum that we're doing, the applied learning, we just had students represented Acushnet in Boston last week. We're doing a lot of great things that we're really proud of. So again, this is just some of the learning that's taking place at both the elementary and the middle school. We have our partners from New Bedford. We do a lot with team building. And some of these pictures are showing group work that was a field trip from New Bedford High School. We actually sent our 6th graders and they had different stations. I talked about this last time. They went to the planetarium. Everything aligns with the standards. Standard 2 is management and operations. And those are just some of the highlights for management and operations. We have our air quality project, our district calendar, all of the updates that we're giving you on technology, the solar canopy, the human resources and the personnel all happens out of my office. The family communication, we send out consistent school and district newsletters. We have our handbooks. Snow removal was a big challenge this year, but everybody did a great job. And we're currently undergoing a special education audit. This was an area, we've had many audits over the past several years, but this was one area that was needed. And so we're finishing that up, and I'll be happy to report on that as soon as we get a final report. And then, of course, professional leadership development, and those are all the trainings that we do. So just some pictures from this year. Standard 3 is family and community engagement, collaboration with town officials, facilities used for community and athletics, school and district newsletters. We continue to have lots of support from the PTO with lots of events that they're planning. We have our family surveys, stakeholder involvement as far as strategic planning. This year, we actually partnered with Greater New Bedford Folk Tech for co-op students, and it's been working out very well. We actually have a new partner in the Judith Ford Boutique Family Partnership, which they've done some scholarships and a donation to build a school store. We have our new staff orientation and tour. We've also strengthened the partnership with PJ Keating. As you know, they've done a golf tournament for us each year, but we've had them come into our 4th grade classroom, and we're sending students on field trips so that they can learn and be aligned with the standards in its 4th grade. We've got the 1-8 Foundation, which we've been a model school system where other schools are coming in to watch our teachers do what they do with applied learning. And then we continue our partnerships with area high schools and colleges. We had a holiday gift card drive, which was great to get the community involved. And we continue to do any philanthropy for any families in need. So here are some, that's when the picture on the right is when PJ Keating came into the classroom, in different activities that we have, the police greeting our students, parents coming in. This one, over the weekend, I went to Gifts to Give, and Acushnet parents and families were invited to an event, and that just happens to be a family member with a student participating in the literacy event there. Professional culture, we try to highlight all of the good things that our staff is doing, so we have a lot of Standard Times and Fund 107 articles. We had a video from the Standard Times highlighting our longest serving teacher. We had an Acushnet Educators Night, which was planned by our ATA president, and that included administrators, teachers, and we just had a pickleball night. You've Got Mugged. I have 2 big mugs, as you know, in my office. 1 month is AES, the next month is FMS. I pick out a name and I cover their classroom. They're allowed to leave early, one day a month, and that's been great. The kids like it, I like it. It keeps me, very actively involved in the classrooms. We have book studies. We do an institutional self-evaluation, which was kind of a requirement that DESE wanted us to do, so we're constantly doing that. We do responsive classroom approaches with our leadership staff as well. We started the Joint Labor Management Committee, which has been very successful this year. We've had 4 meetings, and it's been very collaborative from the teachers as well as administration. New staff orientation, leadership team meetings and institutes, staff convocation, etc. So the culture is something that we all contribute to, and it's important to have a good, strong culture, positive. And here is just some examples. Every year we ask the staff for ideas for our theme, and so this was Kelly Cole's theme, Nothing But Net, and we had Patrick Tutwiler, the former Education Secretary of the state, to come in and speak to us. This was a tour of all of our new staff, our pickleball event. Some more pictures from professional learning opportunities for staff, and then obviously just a picture at the end. So this is not any vote tonight. What I will be explaining to you is that over the next few days, I will send out another copy of the rubric, a Google form. You should all be familiar with that Google form, that you would put the ratings in. Everything would go to Susie, and she would compile everything into one evaluation that Mr. Hood, you would present at our meeting.
So, I just have a question.
Yeah.
Because I do actually think maybe for 2 of our members, this will be new. And last year we talked about maybe doing this slightly different, which is, because I think one of the things that is challenging is previously we get like a blank slate and we all have to go in to do a write-up and a rating.
Yeah.
I think what we talked about is you doing a self-assessment and then rating yourself across each category, and then we can go in and add to, whether we could agree with that rating or not, we can add comments, because I think that will make it more efficient and effective for the committee to be able to do the evaluation as opposed to just getting the blank slate, because it's a bit
It's daunting.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I saw in the presentation, it talks about self-assessment on the rubrics. I don't know if that's how we're doing it with other people, but I think in other, like in my walk of life, you would do a self-assessment, your manager would then say, yeah, I agree with the rating or not, and might add comments.
Yeah, I
so I think it's
don't have a
pretty,
problem with
pretty
that.
I'm just saying, I think it's a pretty common way to
Yes.
approach it.
That's completely fine. So, and then, I would encourage phone calls if you don't understand what I send out to you in terms of anything, the self-assessment, the Google Forms, and then you will have ample time to work on that and get it back to Susie before our next meeting. Does anybody have any questions? Because this was just, again, we've already sort of gone through this a couple of months ago, and I just wanted to quickly highlight some things.
Now, it's good to see the vocal survey changes over time.
So will that
Good data.
survey have like your self-assessment have like evidence attached underneath each one to show us like what?
So when the school committee first tells me, like we meet as a school committee to talk about my evaluation, we actually talk about the process.
Okay.
And the last time the committee did not want me spending time on developing evidence. They wanted the time spent on running the district versus, I'm more than happy, but that wasn't the agreement at the beginning of this session.
When the agreement of this session, at the start of the year, so we'll see. So just so we're clear.
So, and I'll just add about evidence. We try to align all of the standards and everything that comes up at school committee to our agendas. And if you go into Diligent, I can have a report sent out to you when I send you. That's what Diligent is supposed to be for. It's supposed to basically compile everything together so it makes it easier. So for a year-long process, we're not all scrambling. We can say, okay, standard one, here's all the evidence for standard one through Diligent. That's what I would be giving you.
Yeah, so then in your self-eval, maybe you could say like see standard ones or not flipping through.
But I do think that when you're doing a self-assessment and you're rating yourself whatever you rate yourself, there should be some type of write-up that kind of illustrates or backs up why you are saying that you're rating, right? And so these are the things that I accomplished that kind of justify this rating. And it could be
I guess that's what I mean by evidence.
Yeah, so that's, are we saying the same, that's what she means by
Yeah, and
evidence?
I do want to point out that this presentation also shows a lot of things that we're doing in the district, a lot, with little resources, as you know. We're doing really good work, our teachers are doing great work, and I'm leading that work. But yes, I can certainly.
And in my opinion, I don't think when you do your write-up that justifies whatever you rate yourself in a category that you need to walk through every single thing you did. I think you should highlight the things that were more meaniful, and you could refer us to other documentation that says, whatever. But
Visualize this.
Yeah, like when you log into Diligent, if you before every agenda item, there's essentially going to be a number of different things. It'll say like student learning goal number 1, professional practice goal number 2. And we as a committee, we can click on any one of those and it'll refer back to specific agenda items, discussions, presentations, and what have you that have been linked to that specific professional practice area. I think to Ron's point, providing an ad nauseum list of every single one of those on your self-evaluation would be onerous and a waste of time. But calling out the ones that have been, to your mind, the most impactful, and certainly calling out areas where you feel more improvement could be made would be very helpful for us. That's the way that I've always handled employee reviews in my time in industry. They fill out their end, I look at it, and just pretty much what Ron said. So, yeah.
And I think it's probably a relatively light investment for you because you're familiar with all this stuff. But in the way that we were doing it before, we're like, freaking, where do we start? Because there's a lot to kind of, and so I think it allows us to maybe spend the time more effectively identifying areas for we're doing great and improvement, have the conversation, move on, as opposed to trying to wade through the information.
So just to clarify, because in the past I've given you the reports from Diligent, you don't want those anymore because you can go in on your own.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you
if pulling the reports isn't a big lift, then it's not a big deal. It just depends on what the time outlay is. But we can go in and
I think we were saying we would rather see you spend a little time highlighting the meaningful things, why it was important, what it accomplished. Here's why it backs up this rating, we agree or not, and whatever.
So much easier.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
And then the last thing I have is an out-of-state field trip request for grade 2. they're requesting to go to Roger Williams Park Zoo, and our school committee policy is anytime we go out of state, we have to have a vote.
As long as it's not too.
Okay,
I'm fine with it.
can we have a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip to Rhode Island?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unopposed.
Imagine if one of us voted against the zoo trip.
We'd have
I
more
know, it'd
fun.
be so terrible.
We get run out of here.
It's so much fun with 100 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Blazing Saddles.
Oh my gosh. I don't miss that. at all.
Okay.
So we're gonna send all the kids to your house.
We already did town
I'll
election.
take 'em
We already did town election. Any other items that came up that were not anticipated?
We
Okay.
just got directed to.
Direct home technology, is he gonna come to, you're gonna do this? Okay, go ahead.
You are a true.
We're gonna do that. We have to do it, we're running out of time.
He holds out.
I'll go super quick, I promise. Good evening, school committee members, Dr. Bailey. A couple fun ones. It's MCAS time, it's my favorite time of the year. AES and FMS have been doing a fantastic job. As I mentioned earlier in the year, it's a brand new platform again, essentially, for them. I just want to showcase some of the issues that they run into, and again, to highlight how great they do, or they deal with this. One of the instances, if a kiddo leaves the room to go to the bathroom, for that matter, they have to lock their test, and when they come back, you can't unlock it. So we actually wound up calling them, and they said, well, the solution is you just keep hitting unlock until it works. They don't actually have a great solution, but that is their official response.
Right.
So I just wanted to highlight, that's kind of the crazy stuff that our staff are dealing with, and they're doing a phenomenal job. Behind the scenes, Tech Department continues to support other departments through automation and process improvements. We're working with Special Ed Department, help streamline procedures within Aspen, and improve long-term efficiencies. We also got to help Bonnie in transportation with some automation using Google Maps API. I know it's a nerd thing, but it was fantastic. I enjoyed it, and it helped her. Copier contract update. I just got another one, which I can talk to you about. So we have successfully negotiated a 3-year copier agreement with our current vendor. This ensures that staff continue to keep reliable and high-quality equipment. A major positive outcome of this is we negotiated the same price, if not slightly lower. 3 years ago, we negotiated this. We're getting the same price, if not lower. And just keep this in mind, state contract pricing has increased 20% over the last 2 years. So we did a great job. And I got to tell Aldo this morning, they actually got us another $300 off. So hey, $24 a month, right? So it was a win. Anything helps. E-rate update. We have officially been awarded $8,460 and $7,577.52 through federal E-rate. As many of you know, E-rate provides district funding based on guidelines and demographics. The district received the $8,000 towards our internet service provider and the $7,500 towards a new firewall project. It's great for us. That was our Cat 2. It was great. We'll continue to go to any grants, etc., that we find. And that's a tech department update.
Rob, thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Super quick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Quick too. That was fantastic.
I'll also try and go
Can you
quickly.
duplicate that?
No.
No pressure.
Quick
I
as that.
cannot. If you have my report in front of you,
Yes.
basically, every month I give you a budget update, and I do the budget to actual. So this is period 1 through period 10, which is July 1 to April 30th. The left-hand column is last year at this time, FY25, and then the right column is FY26. And again, I use the percent used column. To me, that's most important. I go down and look at the professional salaries, the clerk salaries. As long as we are within range on those from this year to last year, we're in good shape. And the only difference right now is the number of payrolls that have been run, so we're one payroll behind, but actually we're equal, but it looks like one payroll behind because we've spent less this year in professional salaries.
Sure.
So following this pattern, bottom line is we're right in line with last year. Last year we ended with a little bit of extra funds, so I'm targeting that again for this year. A big draw on that is usually we fill our oil tanks before the summer, so I'm hoping the oil drops down in the next month in price. But otherwise, we're in good shape on those figures. Anything I can re-up on supplies of paper and chemicals, we will. Now that it's spring, the facilities department has been working on the roofs of the buildings. And when I say the roofs, I mean the air handling equipment. We found that by going through, like I said, Jake's boiler guy and knows his heating systems and whatnot, and Josh is incredible with all the work he does. We found there's roughly about 10 units on each building that actually circulate the air in the building. So there's big units that have motors and belts. They found a lot of the motors burnt out. They found a lot of the belts broken. So the elementary school's been all replaced. New motors, new belts. Over here is about halfway done on this school. As those are done, I'm hoping to see a difference from last year to this year by having air that's constantly moving through the buildings. I think will help quite a bit. So, like I said, if it's something they haven't done, they figure it out. They're great. They don't call in vendors and stuff like that. So they've been doing that quite a bit. The fields are being used. We notify the public whenever there's chemicals put down so that they know that they're there. We try and arrange it so that they don't conflict with the soccer and the after-school activities. DPW was nice enough to repair our parking lot for us. If you saw during the storm that large bulldozer there damaged some of the parking lot in between the two schools and some of the walkway that was in between the schools. They actually came out and they fixed it and repaved it for us, which was a great help to us. I wasn't sure how we were going to handle that, so they took care of it, no problem, no issues. Solar array is, again, they're working on the design work, they're working on the interconnections with Eversource, and they're working on all the permits. So that'll take quite a while to get all that through. The calf freezer project, we're still scheduled to do that when school ends. So currently working with Train on that, but concerned that our grant that we've applied for the HVAC system, we're supposed to hear something this month, and it's mid-month, I haven't heard anything yet, so I don't have a great feeling on that. So
yeah.
What was the value of that grant? 3 million?
The value of the grant was $3 million.
Yeah.
We have another grant for $2 million, which we'll probably get, which is a battery backup system to the solar. So, but
do you recall when the last date that they said we would expect any response on that was? Was it the 15th?
They said mid-May.
I think it was around the 15th. So probably next week. Yeah.
Hopefully. January 1st, the new window will open up for the MSBA funding projects. But again, I'm not sure if they're going to consider our project something for them. So
they determine that based on how many applications they get, what the needs are of the
yes, and
districts. Yeah.
Jesse attended a meeting with them that they basically said they're looking for projects that totally eliminate fossil fuel. Well, we can't eliminate fossil fuel. So that's an issue. But I'm hoping that'll change.
Yeah, I can briefly speak to that during the school committee reports, but I'll be brief. It's fine.
So
it's nothing official anyway. Next meeting.
State Senator Mark Montigny has applied for and looks like probably secured funding to do some renovations to this library. So superintendent's put a little team together. We're going to look at the overall, the sound, the lighting, the furniture, see what we can do with that grant to make this place more useful and be able to fit more people in here.
Excuse me, just a question on that library issue. Is he applied for grants, with for us, or is he basically earmarked some more money in the legislature? Which is got to be go through committees into the general session to be voted on, which is.
Yes, it's an earmark. It's a $100,000 earmark.
Who knows where that'll go?
Okay, that's just fine.
According to the articles that get published in the paper, you would think these things are a done deal.
Yeah.
They're very confusing.
Sure.
Very misleading.
Yeah.
Food services, we received that $4,000 grant from Project Bread. So with that, we bought some new equipment to help get breakfast out at the door each morning to students to hopefully increase that. The food services has been trying to create new and different meals for students. Last month they tested the chicken, bacon, ranch, flatbread pizza. It was a huge success.
Wow. That sounds good right now.
Yeah, they sent some of it to us to try out. That was great. And transportation continues to go well. We've got obstacles like paving going on in town right now, but Bonnie in my office handles that every single day. She takes care of parents. And other than that, I just mentioned the the 2 grants that we have out there that we're waiting to hear on. So, wasn't as fast as metrics, but
Not bad, you have a little improvement you can do, but we'll work on that.
Yeah.
All right. Any school committee member reports?
None.
I have one question very briefly. ORR is having their step-up day, which I believe is typically what they do for 8th graders moving to the high school. I think Acushnet kids can be part of that this year. Do we know, or have we had any conversations that they're making some, to make sure that the Acushnet kids, this will, for many of them, probably be the first interaction that they have with their colleagues in OR, that we've got some plans in place, or they do, to make sure that the Acushnet kids feel welcome, they're going to be part of it? Do we?
Absolutely, it's very important to both sides in this partnership. Superintendent Nelson and I have been in touch. We actually have a meeting this Friday, which will include the high school principal, our middle school principal, our director of assistant superintendent curriculum, their assistant superintendent. We're all coming together to talk about next steps, and the step-up day is on the agenda. We want to make sure that our students feel welcome and comfortable, and they do too.
Great.
So I do feel like we're going to be having ongoing meetings with them because they view this as a true partnership.
Okay, I think that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that we're having those conversations, and it's a first impression in many ways for a lot of people, so I think it's important that it go off relatively successfully. Any comments, questions on any of the communication and other information in the packet? I'm not seeing any, hearing any. So with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, which is the teachers union MOA and side letter, and pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws 30A, Section 21A4, to discuss the deployment of strategy regarding security, personnel, or devices. The committee will not return to open session, and I will ask for a second, but before I do that, I just want to say our next regular school committee meeting is on Tuesday, June 9th, 2026, 6 p.m. right here, and we'll immediately follow the Pride Awards ceremony in the FMS cafeteria. So do I have a second on the motion to adjourn to executive session?
Second.
And we'll do a roll call.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mrs. LeWin? Yes. Mr. Halcroft?
Yes.
Okay, we will adjourn to executive session.